Does he have it? He's on the outside line, though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now, though, for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly. Miller's still such trouble. He's not a second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's going to do it. Big Barry!
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, as we're here now for round 12 of the Virtual World Sports Car Championship. I am James Parfitt. I'm going to be joined in the booth from the one, the only, the Mr. Mighty Paul Glover in the background here, who's going to be providing all of our epic camera shots once more here alongside here as well. And we kick off this round from Homestead, Miami. Track length 2.1825 miles, 3.5124 kilometers and 15 turns. There is not many championships up for grabs here this evening. There is literally one up for grabs at the moment, and that is the Hypercar Pros, but we can have a look at that very shortly. Let's bring you up the schedule and see where we have been so far as we approach the final round of Laguna Seca next weekend. We have been to Daytona, to Sebring, to Oschersleben, to Silverstone, to Hockenheim, to Le Mans, to Dijon, to the Hungaroring, to Suzuka, to Donington, and last time out at Austria. We are now at Miami. Next week, of course, as well, make sure you join us as we head to Laguna Seca. Don't forget as well, that will be the announcement for what the next historic year will be. But let's have a look a bit about the track here this evening, as well as we'll bring up the track map of what these drivers are facing. Location, Miami, Florida. Length, as we said, 3.56 or 2.2 miles in length. Built in 1995 as well. And it's wrapped inside the Homestead Miami circuit. Now, if anybody's not actually seen Homestead Miami as an oval, it's quite an incredible oval in general. It is a really nice oval itself. Now, what they've done is, obviously, most of the time what they do with ovals is wrap a road circuit inside of that, and that's what they've done. The only difference here is they're not utilizing the corners of the oval like they would at Daytona. They're using the back stretch and a little bit of the front stretch here as well. So it's a bit of a mix of both, but that without the sweeping curves of the oval round the outside. What we'll have a look at right about now as well is the challenges these drivers are going to have to face today here at Miami. Passing the precision, making sure they've got a strong setup, and as per normal, the weather. Will we get rain. At the moment, we are on 0% chance of rain, but you never quite know here at Miami. Next thing you know, you could have an absolute typhoon coming through, and before it, they've got to be dealing with rain. Passing precision. Why? Because it's very tight at certain corners here of Homestead. Turn 13 and 14, turns 3, 4 and 5 are also very difficult, and that run down into turn 8 might provide some opportunities, but it depends on the exit outside of 7. It's going to be tough for them, but we'll see how they get on. Tyre choices this afternoon are as follows. We have got for the hypercars, we've got soft, wet and hards, and then of course for the GTs we have got intermediate, softs, wet and hards. It's always been the same throughout the whole season. It's dependent on car choice as well. It's dependent on what tyres you're on. So the LMGT1s for the Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, Nissan, the Paynos, the Porsche, the Toyota, softs, wet and hards, and then obviously for the LMGT2s, it is the intermediates, wets, softs and hards. Let's bring you a quick up to date with what the standing situation is currently as well. As I say, there is only one series up for grabs, and it is the LMGT1s. Dan Kirby's leading the way at the moment by 9 points. He's only got a win today with Magnus Dahlgren in second, and that will put him in an unassailable lead going into Laguna. So Dan Kirby can wrap this one up there as well. Third still up for grabs between Ethan Funk and Walter de Bruin. We'll keep an eye on that one. And as you can see, fifth with Timon Suvic and John Uyan is also up for grabs as well. CMS Pro, unless ME Racing have an absolute stellar race over this one and the next one, CMS Pro have pretty much wrapped it up. Let's go into the LMGT1 AMS. As we know, that is already cemented. Your champion is Becky Ely on 70.5 points. Here, the team's championship with Golf Racing and Momo Scudiera Cavalli are still up for grabs. So for George Andalides and Barry Dimarzo, they've still got an opportunity to wrap up the team standings. But for Becky Ely, Yuki Takanashi and Gilles Villeneuve, they can do it for Golf Racing. So let's see how this one pans out. Don't count out Speed Details MRE either with Stephen Miller and Wayne Hutchinson. They're still in there. So it's all to play for in the LMGT1 teams. In the LMGT2s as well, Ross Smith wrapped it up, done the job, finished 68 points. He's out in front. He can't be caught. He's had 3 wins alongside JT Tammy. Rookie monsters in the teams, again, have only got to have a good one here as well with Ross Smith, Ben Borman and Jeffrey Ellis. And at the moment, all I can see is Ross Smith and Ben Borman. I can't actually see Jeffrey here. But for Matthew Overton and Dave Coors, Matthew Overton is also not here, and neither, well, Dave Coors is, but he's got a battle all on his own. So we'll see on that one. So that one is pretty much done. LMGT2 AMS here as well. Well, Peter Meyer wrapped it up. 8 wins, completely comprehensive, done an absolute stellar job. He missed 3 races this year, and he still won every single race that he turned up for. So we had 5 in a row from Oschersleben, Silverstone, Hockenheim, the 2.5 hours of Le Mans, and Dijon. And then he takes a week off in Hungary and comes back and wins Suzuka, Donington, and Austria. So for Peter Meyer, job done. Sit high with your slippers. He's already won it. Rook Motorsport. Again, the only team entry in this class, so really there hasn't been a team championship going forward. So all in all, that is the current situation. So one of them where we will be keeping an eye on will be on the hypercar, the LMGT1's pros with Dan Kirby and Magnus Dahlgren. And at the moment, Dan Kirby here is not doing ideal, but I'm sure he will get better because he still has got Magnus Dahlgren behind him. So all in all, it's going to be a tough one, but I think for Dan Kirby, he should wrap it up. That is the end of the team standings. Once more, we've guided you through the calendar. We've taken you through the challenges. good evening, Mr. Reese. Welcome in as well. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on the bells. Depending where you are, if you're on the CMS Pro or if you're on the JPB, we've got lots coming up, I'm sure, on both channels. Obviously, over on the JPB, we've got the 6 hour of Brands Hitch tomorrow for the Big Dreams, Little Voices with TCRs and GT4s. Going to have about 30 entries on track for that one, so that's going to be a very interesting one as well. Later on today, we've got SR4S, Sim Racing for Simpletons. They're in their Super Formula series, so if you want some open wheel action, go and check that out as well. As you can see here at the moment, I believe this is Ross Smith we are on board with as well. Now we do have a few penalties going on this week, okay? So Brian Hall is going to have to go for a drive-through. So is Wouter de Bruin, Timon Suvic and Alex Garrick. They're going to have to all do drive-throughs if they're here, of course. Stop-go for John Uyan. He did not serve his last penalty in the last race within 3 laps. He served it on lap 10. So for him, he's going to be, but he's pending with a warning. Repeat offence, he will be disqualified. There'll be a voice mute for Risto Corpi as well. He got a little bit free in the last race, shall we say. Learned a lesson. He is now on a voice ban. Stop go for Risto Corpi also as well. And Pedro Crulas Gomez has got an NQ. Maybe Paul can help me out with what NQ means. I've seen DQ and an SG and a DT. What is an NQ as we bring Paul Glover into the booth?
Could that be no qualifying?
Could be. Could be a quali ban. Could be.
Qualifying. Yeah. It's a no qualifying. Hello, everybody.
Yep.
Good to be here. So,
yes.
Second to last round. Yep.
Yeah, and then next week, the big announcement, Paul.
Yes.
We finally find out what the historic year is going to be.
Yeah. They've not given us any clues whatsoever. I'm a little bit upset that they don't trust us with this information. So I'm just making that clear to Ross and George. But any theories to what it could be?
No.
Okay.
To be fair, mate, I haven't. He sent me a very pixelated picture, and he said he sent the same picture to everyone else who could work out what the car is. I said, yeah, but does everyone else have bifocal or varifocals? Can they see properly? No, they don't. I said, exactly. I'm 45. I'm sitting with varifocals, and all I can see is what you used to get in your 1980s TV when the picture don't work, and you used to give it a smack on the side. I said, I couldn't figure that out, mate. So, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? The TVs where you used to have to prong the aerials around and you get that coloured thing across the middle and give it a good old smack and then you get your picture back.
Oh, he's on one. He's on one already. He's on one already, everybody. Just be aware. Yeah.
I'll be all right. We got Phil, Felipe Enrique. Good luck, Oliver, George, Ross, and John. As we have got the LMGT2s out on track at the moment as well. Ben Borman leading the way with Ross Smith, Kataranakis, Dave Kors, Peter Meyer, Pecco Yilitalo, maybe, and Kevin Torrance is in 7th at the moment. Of course, the LMGT ones will be out on track after this 10 minutes here, Paul. Homestead Miami, different kind of circuit. I've been here a few times with quite a few cars in different series, and I'm still. Yeah, I'm not a lover. I would have preferred them to use the banking on the back, so both sides, but they don't. And I'm not really a lover of this circuit, I've got to be honest. It's a little bit, I don't know, it's like Marmite. Meh.
Oh, I'm not that familiar with the track, to be totally honest with you. It's not one that, it looks very much like an Indy-esque scenario, as you touched on in the intro there. You've got the oval round the outside, and then they've gone and decided to put a track in the middle of it. But yeah, I mean, I can't really comment on it because I've not really seen anything around this kind of track. But it's clearly got some heavy braking zones into some of these corners, and as on the slides, I think precision overtaking is going to be key here, and trying to get that overdrive and stick, trying to make a move that isn't necessarily on is just going to end up in carnage in these cars. So lapping slower traffic. It's quite tight, isn't it, in the middle section? So that again could be quite interesting and challenging for the faster cars.
Yeah, I think it will be. We've got the orange zone coming from the start-finish line all the way round to the exit of turn 4. Well, out of 5 just, and then it doesn't mean that they can't overtake, guys. It just means that any penalties that occur during that first few corners will be heavily more punished than they would if they were further into the race. So that's there as well. The problem is with these kind of circuits, right, it's great if they use, you know, like Daytona. So for instance, we're going next week in the TCRs that we do. We're going to Daytona, the NASCAR circuit, the 2009 double chicane circuit, and we're using both ends of the banking. The problem with this one is they don't use the banking. So they kind of come out of that last corner, and then they skip the whole of the thing, join the exit of the banking, up the start-finish line, and then they come back in again before the turn 1 of the banking, which I would have liked to have seen more banking here at Homestead. I think it's a great course for that, and they could have really done a good job with this circuit. But yeah, I think it was just to entice more kind of different forms of racing into it. So therefore they've kind of gone, well, let's come off here, go in there, chuck a track in a little wiggly bit in the middle, and I've done with it. You know what I mean? And it doesn't really float my boat. But for some of these drivers, they might like it. I don't know. I prefer Daytona Road and, you know, Charlotte and all that, where they've got the banking involved, I think. But it should be a good one.
See the way the car, like just watching Ben Borman here and seeing how the car gets unsettled as you touched on the banking on a couple of sections, and he has gone faster in the. Again, he's just done a 1:22.2, so he's now starting another fast lap. Ross Smith currently just over a second slower on his fastest lap, and he's just slightly ahead of Ben. You've got Ross in the bottom hand corner of your screen currently, but let's cut to him and have a little look and see how he's going. So
yeah. Well, there is Ross Smith there as well. So see how Ross gets on here at this tricky circuit. He's coming out of 7, coming down into the heavy braking zone. The left-hander of 8. This is going to be where we're talking about one of the passing opportunities. Now he's got quite a long run, but this is what I mean about introducing it coming off the banking. We're not on the banking now. We're just coming up. We're putting the car a little bit up on the back stretch banking, and then we're going to be diving in right before the banking kicks in. There he goes. He dives in now into turn 10, 11, coming down to that hard braking zone of 12. He's going to go round 12, and then we've got the right left of 13, 14, and then you'll see again he comes on again right at the end of the banking, and now we're going on that run down that start finish straight. So you've got to be brave going down into turn 1. He will get another opportunity, and Ben Borman has just gone on to pole on a 1:22.204.
Ross just blew his engine up. Did you not see that?
No.
Engine just caught fire. So yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Poor old Ross.
Yeah, not quite. Yeah. So he's back out again now, coming out of the pits. But yeah, that was something.
He's not going to have time to get another lap in. What's he coming out?
I don't know. You'd have to ask Ross.
Maybe I'll ask him and see what he says here as well. So go aboard with Kato and Akis in that Mustang. Here, we've got a couple of Mustangs. No, we've only got one at the moment. Sorry, I thought Kevin Torrance was in one, but that's the modern. He was in the Mustang there as well. What are we expecting here today, right? Every other championship's wrapped up. Dan Kirby's got his to fight with Magnus Dahlgren. That's really the main one that we've got to be keeping an eye on here. Dan, again, if he goes out and wins like he has done for pretty much every single race that he's attended apart from the beginning of the season, he's going to be unstoppable. We'll wrap it up before we even get to Laguna.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is I think that's always the thing we find in championships is that, you know, wrapping it up kind of means that everybody, like, the pressure's off everybody. Then you sometimes get a great race, don't you? Because people's mentality is slightly different. They've got nothing to lose. And Laguna Seca's a great track, isn't it? It's not an easy track by any stretch, but could allow for some good racing. I think in the GT1s could be quite a challenge, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think the dusty kind of form of the circuit is going to play a massive amount to that. You know, we've got obviously the corkscrew to deal with at the same time, and I think that's going to provide some epic racing. It also might provide some epic carnage, because obviously they've got a blind uphill to come over, hit the brakes just on top of the hill. If the car's unsettled because of the hill, they're going to be in trouble going into that corkscrew. And it's just a very dusty, so they are going to have to take it a little bit more easier as well. It could be an epic ending, but if all the championships are wrapped up here and Dan Kirby goes out and takes this one, are the field going to turn up? Because we're not obviously going to have anything on the line. It's, you know, it's going to be very interesting to see how that works out, I think, because as you know, when you get towards the end of a season, not everybody wants to race when there's nothing on the line.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. Yeah, that's very true, very true.
You know, because we're already light in conjunction to where we have been normally.
Yeah, people's interest does wane as the season goes on, right? And for multitude of reasons, you know, life in sometimes, and also, as you say, losing a bit of interest. It's hard. It's hard to commit, right? And but not just in racing. I think in a lot of things, you know, and I'm sure you find, you know, people might lose a little bit of interest in broadcasting and commentary from time to time, and it's because, you know, it can do. If you overcommit and do too many leagues or whatever, or agree, you know, to race in too many leagues, or it's so easy to just end up things becoming a bit samey. They lose their shine a little bit.
Yeah.
But Ethan Funk crossed the lines with a 1:17.3, so currently the quickest man out there.
Yeah, he is at the moment in that Nissan R390. Expect Dan Kirby to come back and do something. I'm sure he'll probably
Timon Subic's just beaten that with a 1:17.2, so quite a bit quicker than the GT2s. Not quite 10 seconds, but getting close.
Yeah, but we have said obviously in general it should be round about 10, maybe 9 to 10 laps before the GT1s start lapping the GT2s here. You know, fuel situation for today, lap 18 and 19 roughly for the GT1s, lap 24, 25 for the GT2s, so that's possibly going to be a two-stopper as we are entering into a 71 lap racing fluid in the pace car here. 71 laps, and that's going to be a tough old run for some of these drivers.
Yeah, how the tyres gonna hold up, and we can see in the bottom right, and also on the screen has come up to her now. Becky has just had a moment and run wide. You can just see how aggressive that banking is there, and like I pointed out before, it does seem to, well, it appears to unsettle the car. I've been meaning, James, to have a go driving these cars around before I do a broadcast, just to kind of get a sense to what they're like. Oliver Day now in P1 with a 1:16.1. So that's quite a spread at the moment, because P3 with Timon Subic is with a 1:17.2. A second back currently from what Oliver Day's been able to do in the Ferrari.
Yeah, Day here as well. We know he's done very well for himself, a good account of himself in general, I think. And to be fair, you know, every driver here has done an incredible job. I think, you know, they've done absolutely amazing. Oliver Day, of course, sitting in 6th in the GT2 AM Championship. Of course, he missed basically the opening 6 rounds before he come into the series. So to sit 6th after missing 6 rounds is pretty impressive for Oliver Day. I am expecting a few more crews to be jumping in. Of course, we've got him and Kirby. Oh, you're 1, 2, 3 with Subic in 3rd there. If nobody can stop Dan Kirby, as we've seen previously, he can just run away with it, Paul, and I think that's the scary thought for a lot of these drivers.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit like, how can we say, Max Verstappen in Formula 1 at the moment, you know, like, what's to keep you coming back? And I guess it's the possibility of I know it's not the same because the cars aren't being developed like they are in Formula One. You know, this is a mod. You know, the cars are kind of set for the season. You know, with the odd bugs here and there, kind of tweaked from time to time. But what's the incentive if somebody's running away with it? What is the incentive? But for me, there are certain tracks. I generally don't race at R-Factor 2. I used to quite a bit. I used to do a lot of endurance. I love going around Le Mans. Doing endurance cars, but these days I'm racing in a set of course of competizione most of the time. But there are certain tracks where I know I'm stronger, so sometimes you've got to kind of like cross your toes, cross your fingers, and hope that your favourite tracks are going to be in the season as well, because that gives you a bit of a boost, knowing okay, I might not be able to win, but I might be able to be in the top 3 or I might be able to be in the top 6. And I think you have to be realistic with your own benchmarks, otherwise you've got nothing to aim for, and I think that's part of it, is you've got to set your own realistic targets. And you know, I'm racing in a league at the moment, and I said to the guys before the start of the race, I want to be in the top 10. That's my target. I qualified P4 better than I thought I would, but the race didn't go as well as it probably could have done. I finished P12, just outside my target, but I set the fastest lap of the race, so I take that as a win, you know. So it's where you can find the positives, I think. You know, it's all, your mindset plays a part, is what I'm trying to say.
I agree. And I think that's the thing for some people. Two things that generally make a decent driver is, as you say, your mindset, your racecraft situation, all comes out of one place. Then, of course, what you're getting in practice time. If you're going to rock up to a track and you've only got half an hour practice to go, and you're going to rock up and moan about the fact that you're not fast, sorry, son, that's a you issue. That is an us issue. You know, I know a team in the last season's JBB GT4, and they used to practice and practice and practice, and then people couldn't understand where they found their pace from. Well,
they practice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, you can't rock up, can you? And I think that's some of the things. If you're in this series now, and you're seeing the likes of Dan Kirby go and run away with it as he's taken pole position on a 1:16.265. The challenge would be, what is Dan doing that I'm not doing?
Well, it's Oliver Day's fastest at the moment. I'm showing Oliver Day on the other live timing. We're 1:16.1, so that's weird. It's not showing. He's in a different class. Sorry, that's what it is. It's
okay.
Yeah, if I show you multi-class, yeah.
Or the overall, yeah.
Or the overall, yeah. I'll show you mixed.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's, you know, you've got to look at the bigger picture. If at the end of the day, Day is quick here on a 1:16.1, you can guarantee that Day might have had a good old, you know, run at it. You know, he's got out, he's done some practice. Don't know if you're only doing half an hour a week. It ain't going to work. And,
no.
And that's the thing. To get better, do the practice.
But also, like for me personally, I'm not a great qualifier. I am all about race. So I might not be the fastest, but I'm always told by crew chief how consistent I am. So, and that's the thing. It's like, yeah, okay, the guys ahead of me might be a second a lap quicker than me, but actually I know that guy's going to have a moment, have an off, and I'm going to gain 2 seconds back because they push so hard that they have this tendency to make mistakes. So, you know, there's a guy I race with at the moment, and I'm quicker than him, but he doesn't make the mistakes that I'm currently making. You know, like speeding in the pit lane for one. I mean, I did spin the whole race considering it was wet, but because he was able to avoid those mistakes that I made, or the one I made, he was able to beat me and finish P4 in the race, or P5. So, yeah, it can. Sometimes it's about just keeping it on the black stuff.
Consistency, sir. Yes. That was always my issue when we come to racing as well. I was never consistent. I was inconsistently inconsistent. So, you know, the qualifying has come to the end. We'll bring it and see if Ross is going to come in for a chat again with us, as he always does do, before we go into, well, that's part of the warm-up situation. So we will go into a warm-up. We'll bring Ross in, have a quick chat with him, and then we'll run through the grid when the warm-up has finished. and then we can bring you up the grid as these cars start getting on. Don't forget, 1 pace lap, then we're going to be a single file green, and then we're going to be into that orange zone from turn 1 to turn 5. They can overtake. Any penalties suffered within that time will be heavily more penalised because you're in the orange zone, so they've got to be a little bit careful. It's going to be a very interesting one. 71 laps here. It's going to be at least a good couple of hours of racing, if not more, as George Andalidis goes green across the board and puts himself up into 8th, I believe.
Yeah,
there.
he was P9, and he managed to get P8 on his last flying lap. Nicely done.
Yeah, George there setting a nice little benchmark for himself here as well. So lots going to go and happen between this race, Paul. I think it could be a very interesting one. I'd be interested to see on the concentration. The reason I say that is this track, although it depicts that it doesn't look hard because, you know, you're going into some nice corners, coming out of 5 through 6, 7 into a hairpin at 8, long run round to 11, fast left down to 12, and then probably the next heavy braking zone at 13, 14 once you've done turn 8. Then you're off on another long run. So there's not a lot to it, but if you don't concentrate all the time, you're going to find a wall or a grass here.
Yeah, I think we saw a couple of instances in qualifying of people pushing the track limits and finding the grass. It's got a couple of long straights, but that's where the problems can sometimes arise. It's when your mind starts to wonder, I wonder what I'm having for dinner later. I've got to put the washing on, or whatever weird stuff goes through people's minds, and if you're not focusing and thinking, right, where's my breaking point? Well, you're probably going to miss it. And that could end up with you, as you say, just on the grass or in a barrier somewhere, or could be in the back of another car. So, and also, the thing is, like, flying around a track is all well and good, but do the drivers practice being offline and braking? Because when you've got to make an overtake, the general consensus is you want to practice off the line, and learn your braking points there as well. So, and that's where a lot of people go wrong, is their racecraft lets them down. And because, these things about qualifying, doing hot stints and all this, yeah, okay, you might have pace, but can you race side by side through some tricky sections of the track? Can you follow another car behind? Can you follow a car that is 2 seconds slower than you a lap and make adjustments for that? Like, these are all very, very valid questions, and race car plays a big part in what you're able to do.
Well, I'll tell you what we can do is have a chat with Ross Smith, who will be able to answer most of them questions there, Paul. So
I don't know about that. It's pushing it.
Well, I'll tell you what, you ask him in the order you want, mate. You go along with him and see what you get out of him, Paul. Go for it.
No, you crack on, James. It's absolutely fine.
Ross, welcome into the booth, sir. How are you?
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm good, thank you. How's it going in here?
Oh, well, it's great. We're having a chinwag. We're discussing about people's inabilities. Paul's just telling everyone they got to go and practice more, and do various different things from a man that drives, once a year or whatever.
Oh, yeah. I'm racing a league. I'm racing at least once a week. I was racing two days a week at one point, but one of the leagues I was racing is currently finished. So, yeah.
Commitment.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, and I think it is important. Like, Ross, do you practice your pit stops before the race?
Of course.
Yeah, exactly. Right, there's the kind of stuff people need to do, and I think it's the basics that sometimes people overlook. Would you agree, Ross?
Yeah, and that's what costs them sometimes very precious seconds or even minutes if something goes terribly wrong.
So yeah, there you go, James, even. Not Jake, James. Just insulted him now. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. There you go.
I think me and you will have a chat after this one as well. See what goes on next season, Paul. See how many times Ross sees you. Ross, tell us what's going on in CMS at the moment in Storm Gang with the mods. I know we've got the big announcement next week, and I'm going to give up trying to get anything out of you because I never manage it and I don't ever succeed. So tell us where you're at going on in CMS and Storm Gang Simulation at the moment.
Well, CMS is wrapping up for the season. Obviously, this is penultimate round, and then we've got Laguna Seca next weekend, doubleheader, and we're feverishly working to get those cars ready so that way the video is all set, and we can have our very lovely premiere for the historic series on the JPP channel, and it'll be a glorious thing. I'll be in here watching it with you. Everyone's going to see it all at the same time, although I guess you'll technically have a chance to see it before it premieres, since you'll have all of that loaded. But
well, it depends if you send it to me or Paul. If you send it to Paul, I'm not going to see it because he won't tell me he's got it.
Is Paul broadcasting next time?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So great, excellent. So you won't get to see it. So I'll get that over to you, Paul, and we'll have a.
Love it, love it, Ross. I love it. I love it. And Ross is there for the games. I absolutely love this. I'm on board, Ross. Whatever you want, Ross, I'm on board.
Yeah, why don't you buy him an apple as well? I place it on his desk as you walk into class in the morning.
Apple. Yeah, but yeah, we're working really hard. Our testers are going full throttle on both the historics and the modern cars. We're getting those all in place. Unfortunately, we don't really have a platform where we can share the modern one with you guys. Although I mean, we can probably talk about it later. But that one will come probably in a few more weeks once we're into December, because we still have some work to do on those. But yeah, it'll be good. But yeah, we're already getting ready for next year. We'll have all of the calendars, announcements, and everything ready to go. Probably, I want to say in the early couple of weeks here of December. So we'll share that with everybody, get that out, and yeah, everyone will have the info, and we can all get extremely excited for what's to come.
Ross, what happens to the old mods? Do they just get mothballed and no more development, or do you think, one day we'll come back to those? What happens in that regard?
Actually, so they are being updated and released. In fact, Stormgang has released the 1971 mod that we did back in 2020, I want to say.
Right.
It does have a little bit more work to do, but we refined all of the physics and everything on it, so now all those are balanced. That was actually one of our first major mods that we did with competition, and we were working with Apex Modding and Crossply and Chief Wiggum, who does excellent historic models. He actually has a really cool one where it's Formula One from the 70s, but instead of being a specific marquee or anything, he has all the different body panels from all the different cars, so you can mix and match and make your own. So, getting to work with guys like that was really fun, and making that season come to life. At the time it was the 50-year anniversary of those cars. It's a very special time for a lot of people. Apex Modding had spent a ton of time working on their Porsche and their Ferrari 512, and yeah, so putting that one out, we'll get some graphical updates there. The 98s that we're in right now, they're going to get some love. The 91s Group C cars that we did, we're actually partnering with a couple other people who've updated the Matt Core cars graphically, and we're going to get everything squeezed together. We've got new models that we're going to be updating for that one and getting those out. In addition to getting all of our historics and modern things ready for the following year. So there's a lot of work ahead, but we've got a lot of streamlining in place, and you should see a lot more work coming out from Stormgang over the coming months. Just periodically seeing all these things coming through, and it's going to be a good thing to get those out there.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting because R Factor 2 is still gets updates, physics updates, and not just content. And I guess you have to kind of make sure that you stay on top of that, because I guess there's no reason why another league can't decide to use the same mod, right? And I guess that's why they're out there, is because you want people to enjoy those mods, right?
For sure, yeah. I mean, that's part of the reason why we spend an entire season as an exclusive at Champion Motorsports, is one, so that way the members can enjoy having that access, as being part of that membership. You don't have to pay anything. It's free, or anyone can come in and join. But it's basically like beta testing, but it is a lot further along, where there are some graphical things that need to be updated. There might be some edge cases where refinement needs to be done on some of the physics sides of things, but for the most part, because of all the thousands of hours of testing development that's gone in, and BOP that happens over the course of the season, these things really are dialed in. And and it's great to hear the banter back and forth between all the drivers where, everyone's saying like, oh, I could have got him, I just kept running out of fuel a little early, or, my tire wear was just a little bit too much. I couldn't quite get the COP quite right on the car. And it's the exact same thing that all the teams, the real teams in real life, were all struggling with and fighting for. And, just digging into their setups and looking for those few tenths and everything, getting out and practicing their pit road stops and everything else for, just those few more tenths. So that way you get these really incredible finishes. I mean, like we saw at Bahrain where Tom Lane and I think it was either Magnus or Wouter who, came down right to the line as a photo finish for second place. So that was awesome. So that's what it's all about, and we definitely want to make those types of moments available for everyone who's running our Factor 2.
Yeah, I guess James and I were talking before you joined us about attrition of numbers and as the season progresses and people losing, I guess, not the will to live, but the will to race, especially once the championship has been won. I mean, saying that, we've still got a decent number. 22 drivers are here for the penultimate round. Are you expecting a field just as strong for next season, maybe even more, and do you think that will be determined by your announcement of what's to come? Do you think some people go, oh no, I don't fancy driving those, or you get some others go, oh yeah, these will be great? I guess you get a bit mixed feedback, don't you, after following an announcement?
It really is. I mean, because you jump around eras. I mean, you'll get, like we had the Group C, and that was probably one of our most popular historic series, but it's also an extremely popular era.
Yeah.
People, I mean, they clamored to that. They enshrined that era, the 787B, taking Le Mans as the underdog. It's a really great time in motorsport, especially endurance racing. And so they're not going to, maybe have the same understanding as like what you have in like the late 90s or like the early 80s, late 70s, or back in the 50s, like where you're bouncing around. I mean, you will have different drivers coming in and out who are aware of those eras, and they're like, oh, you got my early 60s cars out there, here we go, like they're licking their chops and everything. And then you got guys in here right now who'll be like, yeah, I'll pass.
Yeah.
But it's different strokes for different folks, and we just try and make it as appealing as possible, as much of an homage to how the cars were, and really ignite the passion that happened during that time. Like really relive those battles of like where you had the early days of Ferrari, Porsche, like a Corvette, Shelby or Lotus, or like any of those teams that are famous today, but these are like the early days when they were just a couple kids in a garage like throwing cars together, and it's like, oh man, look at these people just showing up and taking wreaths and trophies and everything else. And we want that to be something that is recreated as much as possible.
I also want to know, Ross, is will you be driving a car as bright as the one you're driving this season, or will you go for a little bit more of a subtle colour choice?
So I'm actually going to be having a very special livery next time. It will not be pink for the season, but it will be historically relevant.
Right.
And it will be relevant because next season will mark the 100th race for me for BWSC.
Okay.
So
it's quite a landmark.
Align
that. Yeah. And I guess because you're doing you've got insider knowledge, I guess you could work on the livery a little bit earlier than some of the other drivers. Would I be right on that?
I could. I probably will still be spending most of my time making sure like wipers work and you don't have weird graphical bugs and like speedometers are showing correct and all that. So yeah. I mean, it'll get in there for sure. But yeah, I really want to make sure that all of this, and right now things are coming along great for the historic side. Like it's going to be in a much more polished state by the first couple rounds than we've had pretty much in any other mod before, and the same with the moderns. It's going to be pretty good, although there's still quite a bit of work there. But yeah, feeling good. It's gonna be great. You guys are going to be very pleased.
So we're not going to get any more tidbits before next week?
Oh my god, I rained tidbits on you. I can't believe this, but okay.
Well, you haven't really.
It just shows you James wasn't paying attention, Ross. That's all that just gives you, doesn't it? So.
You don't even have to wait as long as Christmas. Come on, you know, it's a week away.
I'll suck it up and wait a week, though, Ross. When do you think, though, what you're looking at mainly starting for the following season? Are you looking at taking a month off through December and going again in January, or do you think you're going to be like some people are December, January, starting again in February throughout the whole of the year? What's the plan for you in general?
For me, there is no time off, unfortunately. But as far as what we expect to see, we're going to have some internal test races actually coming up starting next weekend, I believe, for the historic. And then we're also going to have an internal test race for the modern in about 2 weeks' time from then. And then we're going to have our public races starting, I think, the 16th of December.
I think round 1 is the February the 17th, isn't it, for historic?
The actual official rounds, yes. This would be a public test.
Right, okay.
So like an exhibition race that we'd have. So we'd have that. We're targeting the 16th of December. And then the modern one, possibly the 30th. But that one may bleed into January because I think there's still a lot that needs to be kind of
I'm looking at your calendar, Ross. It's got round 00 December 16th, and then rounds R0 30th of December.
Okay, so he has that one there on the 30th still.
Yeah,
that's pretty damn ambitious, but
yeah, but if you don't set those targets, Ross, you're never going to make them, right?
Yeah, he's not the one who has to build the actual bottles up. I mean, he's got a team of people. I'm just sitting here in the corner with my crayons, so, you know. It looks like we're getting to go together. So I'm going to hop out, but I will catch up with you guys later. Hopefully at the end. We'll see.
See you later, man. Take care.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ross.
Well, there you go, Paul, as well. It's all going to be very interesting as we head into Laguna Seca next week. We get the announcement that basically I've been crying for the last about 3-4 rounds, to be fair. And as I say, I get little tidbits, but no real definitive answer. Have you got an idea of what era you're looking at?
I would if I knew what he was talking about. If I'll be totally honest with you. My historic knowledge isn't that great, but I've enjoyed learning about these cars and what they're about. So yeah, let's see. We'll know more next week, won't we?
Yeah, we will. Okay, guys, we're going to take a brief intermission, and we'll be back with the grid shortly. Okay, guys, here is the grid for this race as these guys head round on their pace lap now. Let's take a look here again. We've got Oliver Day on pole alongside Dan Kirby on row 1. In row 2, it's going to be Magnus Dahlgren and Timon Suvik. Look for Dahlgren to get the jump on Kirby if he can. On row 3, it's Ethan Funk and Brian Hall, and then Jason Whited and George Angelidis on row 4. Going on from that one on row 5, it's Alexander Schultz and Becky Ely, and then John Uyan and Gilles Lalonde down in 12th. So let's see how Gilles gets on down there. Then we've got Philip Enrique and the last here of Stephen Miller and Tom Mountjoy. Then we go into the LMGT2s with Ross Smith there alongside Vasilis Kataranakis, who's got Dave Kors for company. Then we've got Peter Meyer, then Pekka Yalato, I think. on that one, and Kevin Torrance is the last man on the grid, but we are going to be up and running very, very shortly with Dan Kirby. And we will get some epic racing here as well. For Magnus Dahlgren, it's got to be important to try and get past Kirby right at the beginning. He's got to try and jump him as they're coming around 13 and 14 now. Kirby's going to get him, Oliver Day, sorry, he's going to get him away. Can Magnus jump Kirby going in? Kirby in second, Dahlgren in third. The arm of Oliver Day is leading us away, and we are now up and running on that single file green down in the bottom right. So we've got the LMGT2s coming through there as well. So let's take a look and see what happens with them as they're all up and running, with Ross Smith at the moment tucked behind Ben Borman. Borman out in front. Oliver Day still leading the way. He's got Kirby closing in on the left-hand side. Borman's doing a great job holding back Smith on the right-hand side here. And you can see now all the racing. There's still line astern. Nobody's really made any jumps on positions at the moment here, Paul. But one of the important things is they've all got away cleanly.
Yeah, no carnage to speak of, and as you say, they're all kind of line and file really at the moment. So yeah, people, I think being sensible would be the word that I'm looking for.
Yeah, I fully agree with you on that one. I think a lot of it now, this late on in the season, you've got to make sure that you're holding that line, you're scoring points on the board. For Kirby, again, he'll get 6 points if he takes the win here. Will it be enough to get past Dahlgren? Well, we're going to have to see how that one pans out. If he scores 6 going forward, of course, he will get second place. And we can have a look. It put him on 72. If Magnus Dahlgren finishes in third, of course, he's only going to get 4 points, which will put him on 61. So he will be out of touch going into the final race at Laguna Seca. You can see Oliver Day is still holding on from Kirby once more. Kirby's tucked up as basically as close as he's possibly allowed to be without making contact of Oliver Day on that run down into turn 8. The left-hander hard on the brakes of the base there. Round we go here once more, and then on through the double right-hander of 7, sorry, before we go on to the long straightaway of turn 8. That is the front view of Dan Kirby's car on the right-hand side down into this heavy braking zone. He's going to want to try and get as close as he can to Day. You can see him there as well. He's trying that cutback. Day's run a little bit wide. That's allowed Kirby to go up the inside here. Is he going to be able to make it through once more? He's not. Oliver Day still got the jump on him. Kirby just did not look like he had the grip there, Paul, to make use of Oliver Day's almost incident.
I think if you go on board with Day like we are now, it's clear that the Ferrari has either got more grip or has just got amazing straight line speed as Day sets the new fast lap of the race. I know we're only a couple of laps in, but it's a low 1 minute 18. And you can see like the gap, and then under braking is where Kirby just appears to then be able to bring that gap down, like the old Constantinum effect. But behind you've got Magnus Dahlgren just sort of watching, and just like less than a second behind P2.
Yeah, he is at the moment. You see Kirby's trying to work hard over Day there. He's trying to fight it. He's trying to open up that gap to Dahlgren at the moment. Is 1.3 seconds from Kirby to Dahlgren. He is being held up currently at the moment in conjunction with what we normally would. I don't like the sounds of that, Mr. Paul Glover. What has gone on there?
Ross Smith has had some kind of incident. He's lost a few places. We'll go and have a look and see what's happened here. Oh, he's lost it into the corner there, James.
Yeah, that's on the run into turn 2. Unfortunately for Smith there, he has now dropped himself down the order. In hindsight for Ross, right, he's already wrapped the championship up. He didn't necessarily need to be here, Paul. I think that's one of the things that obviously we've got to remember for the LMGT2 of Ross Smith there as well. Kirby's trying to make that inside line count once more. He's trying to go around Oliver Day. He just doesn't look like it. That Ferrari 333, it just seems to have the outright pace on that Porsche 911, you know, and it seems to be able to maintain its gap and speed all the time here. So it's going to be a tough one for Dan Kirby, judging by the fact that Day's got some pace down the straights in that car.
Yeah, and Magnus Dahlgren also, was looking relatively close to Kirby. The Ferrari just seems to have some amazing pace at certain parts of the track, and Kirby's able to get a really good run on him in certain parts, like here right now. Like, this is where his car appears to be the strongest, and the Ferrari appears to be struggling. But when they get onto the back straight, and it makes me wonder, like, if Kirby can get past, is he then able to gap him through the middle section? Because the middle section is the largest part of the circuit compared to the straights, really. And I think that's where he could potentially make the pace that he's got count. But it's getting past. It's tricky, right? He tried to make that move again. He'll try to make it once more, but you've got to hope that his tyres are, going to be in a better position a few laps' time compared to the Ferrari ahead.
Day's just set the new fastest lap there as we come in, drop in from turn 10. Or now as well, another cry of from
Ross Smith DNF. Ross Smith has DNF'd. Like you say, he didn't need to be here to win, but he has decided that enough is enough.
Well, maybe he's not loving the circuit. We'll try and have a catch up here with him and see. I'll just drop him a message in the process and find out if I can what is going on. It seems to be here with these two up front with Day and Kirby. Day's got the pace down the straights where Kirby needs it, but Kirby's Porsche has got the grip through the corners where the Ferrari needs it. And I think that's how they're kind of surviving as they are at the moment here, Paul, with the fact that Day has got some pace in that Ferrari, and then Kirby is trying to come up behind him, and he just can't get there. And then he gets close enough in the corners, out of 2 through, 2, 3, now 4, 5, and onto we go. But he's just not being able to latch them up all together to be able to get it. The important thing is the 3.5 seconds to Dahlgren at the moment, who's just gone across the line, and he's going down into turn 1 now.
Yeah, and Jason Whitted is close, keeping Ethan Thunk in close company further back as well. Looking at the we've had another DNF, by the way. We had Pekka Yatalo. I'm not quite sure how you pronounce that. They DNF before Ross Smith did, but I can see we're having some action off track, so we'll quickly take a look at a replay. It's just Peter Meyer who's had a moment.
Let's see what Peter Meyer has done here. Goes over the line, he's just running up the grass. I can guarantee that's probably a snap coming out the corner, and it sent himself up the grass level here as well. As Peter Meyer again, another man that doesn't really need to be here. He's wrapped up the championship. Good evening, Phil, across the pond. Hope you are well once more, but we'll see how Peter does and whether or not he comes back out. It wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't, Paul, here either, to be fair. Gaps starting to appear across the circuit. A lot of these drivers 1 second and above apart, including Dan Kirby. He's almost dropped out to that second mark here as well.
Yeah.
So they're all getting a little bit spread out early, when I would have thought with a type of circuit that is supposed to be so draft dependent, I thought they might have been just a little bit closer, but it just the only two that really looked close are the front two of Day and Kirby.
Yeah, well, you've got the battle for the GT2. You've got Vasilis there and Katanikis. Katanikis. Yeah, I think it's Pekka Yili-Tolo. Yeah, apparently is how you pronounce that bit. I've absolutely butchered that, I'm sure, but yeah, you've got the battle for both classes really, and they're already coming around to lap a back marker, which is quite amazing. But you just got to, like I say, I think Kirby's closed that gap down again now, so you've got to hope that their tyres can last, and maybe they, maybe try the undercut, the overcut, whatever they think is going to work today.
I think for Kirby, all the while that him and Day are opening time up on Dahlgren, I don't really feel the need for Kirby to panic about not getting past Day. I think it's when Day almost is holding him up here. I think that's where the panic for Kirby's got to set in. But at the moment, Kirby just does not have the pace in that Porsche. He'll close it up through the wiggly sections here as well of turn 2 and 3. Now they're going around the right-hander of 4. Kirby again getting that gap right into the back of Day and that Ferrari. But now this is where the Ferrari can open up his legs. You can see the gap extended physically on your screen. Kirby cannot get close. He's gone in a little bit hot now on that run through 6. He's now got a fast right-hander of 7. On the run down to 8, we've got another back marker as well, who I'm sure is not going to hold him up. Now through goes Oliver Day. Can Kirby get through as well? He can't. He cannot get through. Is he going to struggle now, Paul, trying to catch up with Day, because he's going to be slightly off the draft as well?
Yeah, that's a bit unfortunate for Kirby there, and really the back marker didn't do any favours whatsoever in that Porsche. So I think that's gonna, that it's so easy to get frustrated with things like that. But look, I think Kirby's got the pace at the moment. Like I say, we'll see how the tyres are. Like already, I think he's closing that gap back down, James.
Yeah, I think he is, but the question I've got for you is, did that back marker need to do anything wrong? Now, as we know, I've had continual discussions with George Angelidis about blue flags and overtaking in multi-class. It's easier for the car to go in and take its normal racing line, so the faster cars could go in a little bit deeper and run on the outside of him. And that, to me, it looks exactly what I think that was Tom Mountjoy. That looks exactly what Mountjoy did. So Dave managed to get through, but for Dan Kirby, that's his fault, isn't it? To not get through.
Well, look, see, look, we've got the back marker in the background here. I'll just show you, like, again, just sort of getting in the way a little bit. So this is Pekka. Yeah.
Yolito.
Yeah.
Utello. In the 996.
Yeah.
In the 911, sorry.
Yeah. The 96 car. So yeah, well, maybe new. I mean, I've not a name that I've known, and I think it's probably just a new driver. And again, I mean, look, it's tricky. He doesn't have to dive out of the way like Formula One, but he also doesn't want to make it difficult on other drivers either. So it's a fine line. It's a fine line, and. You just want to make sure that you are a good back marker if you can help, and not determine what happens for the race for the lead. But talking of the race for the lead, James, it's hotting up again.
Yeah, Kirby's closed all the way back in today once more as he's tucked up right behind him. Oliver Day in that red Ferrari. And now there, Dan Kirby trying to wrap it up the inside. That's on this run from turn 7. He's going to try and take the inside in 8, but you can see physically the pace of the Ferrari just pulls away from Kirby. He can't get near him, Paul. I think that Ferrari has just got some proper top end outdo on him.
Yeah.
He's coming out of 8 and he's pulling away. He's going again.
Which might explain why Kirby's so strong in the middle section. He might be running a higher downforce.
Yeah.
Right, and I mean, you watch that gap now. That's going to continue to come down again.
Yep, I agree. I think you could be not far from the truth. I think that's the thing.
I don't know if it's a car characteristic or whether it's the setup, right? So, because I've not driven either of these.
I think the setup has got a massive part to play. I think they've got to make sure that if they're going to run skinny wing, or if they're going to run, camber in, out, which way they're going to do it, whether or not they're going to have more wing, allow the back to stick, and thrash your tyres out, or have skinnier wing and let it slide and maybe maintain tyres. And at the moment for Dan Kirby, I would just concentrate on trying to stay with Day. At the points of the track, I need to stay with him. Make sure I'm tucked up right behind you coming out of turn 8. Give myself an opportunity on the run down into 11. If I can't make it into 11, make sure I'm tucked up by the time I'm coming out of 14. Give myself an opportunity going into turn 1. But at the moment, Dan Kirby just doesn't seem to have an answer there, Paul, for Day in front of him.
No, and I think it's clear he's got the outright pace, but I mean, I've said this a lot in commentary I did the other week. It's one thing catching up to a car, but it's another thing entirely being able to make the move. And I do feel that race pace-wise, I think he's looking stronger at the moment. But he's just got to be conscious not to try and take too much out of the tyres. I can see they're catching up on a couple of back markers, aren't they? Just ahead. That might be the race leader. I think it might be Ben Borman and Vasilis there. I think that's who they're catching. And it is. Yeah.
Ben Borman and Vasilis Katoranakis. Katoranakis in that Celine Mustang SR, of course. And anybody who normally drives a Mustang will turn around and say they don't handle very well. And again, Kirby loses out a little bit. He tightens up. He gets the slide on coming past Katoranakis. Now we've got Borman sitting in front of him here as well. Day's going to be able to make the move going down. Is he going to be able to? Kirby's going to be able to sweep down the outside. And Ben Borman didn't make that really any more difficult than it needed to be.
No. But it's always tricky, especially, I mean, I touched on it, didn't I, earlier on? You know, that part of the track is going to be tricky to get around back markers. And it takes two to tango. Again, it's something I say all the time when it comes to any race that I broadcast or commentate on. You need the back marker to do their job, but also you need the faster car to do their part as well. And the thing is that, and also what I often say is that if the faster car starts to feel like you're not being very, very helpful, their impatience level will rocket. And then what they'll do is they'll make a lunge. And then likelihood is there'll be contact. And it will ruin both of your races. So I'm of the opinion, for me, when I'm racing, that if there's a faster car behind me, I'm just going to lift off at the earliest opportunity, make it obvious what I'm doing, and let them by, because I want to concentrate on my race. And I think that's really important. But some people just don't have the setup or have the experience to understand how important it is to have that knowledge of what's coming up on you, where the other cars are, to be able to make that overtake relatively easy, or to work together, I guess, is what you're trying to achieve.
I think the thing is, the quicker you allow the faster car through, the quicker you're going to be able to get on with your own race.
Yes.
If you decide that you want to be a good old spanner in the works and, defend him up and not let him through and don't take the opportunity, you are going to lose your own time there as well. You can see in the right-hand side, I believe that's still Ben Borman and Vasilis Katoranakis. So really, it's a pros and cons. For me, I'm the same as you. Right? Yeah. I've been brought up on F1. As far as I'm concerned, get out of the way. So I will make the earliest convenience to get out of the way and let them come through. And I think people just need to have that sensible attitude, because you say there's a lot more involved than just letting a car through. Yeah. Think of your own race. Think of everything else through, and there's so much involved. And I for poor old Pika down at the bottom in 21st there, he didn't take that opportunity well. And as you can see here for Vasilis Katoranakis, I believe that is one of the Toyota GT1s. I think that could be Magnus Dahlgren. Yeah, Dahlgren trying to come through as well.
He's got Ethan Funk just behind here as well. So Ethan's doing the same thing. He's getting past the back markers as well.
Yeah, and that leads to that following cars mentality, doesn't it? Of, oh no, he's got through, I need to get through, otherwise I'm going to lose time.
Yes,
and then it can just affect everybody's race. You know what I mean? I've seen it so many times in multi-class. The guy behind drives like an absolute loony to try and get past the car in front, because his car he's chasing has got past him.
Yes,
so, there's so many ways and pros and cons to this whole dramatic racing.
I mean, the thing is as well, like, if you're battling for P11 and you're coming up to a back marker, I want that back marker to know that he's got the battle for P11 coming up behind him. Because I have that level of awareness. So if I can do it, they should be able to do it too. And I don't want to be that person that they're shouting at the end of the race saying, you ruined my race, you ruined my battle for P11. That would have been, because as far as you know, that could be their highest finish in the season.
Yeah.
So,
oh, go on, son. Is he going up there? Is he going to be able to make it through? There's a lot of oofs coming from Paul there as well. And he did make it through. Is Katoranakis going to be able to have a go? He's not going to be able to get past him in that Mustang there. And Kateranakis did not make it through on Ben Borman. Now we've got, I believe that's the Ferrari of George Angelidis coming up behind us in the 333. He's being chased down at the moment by Alexander Schultz, who also, this is where that mentality comes from. Oh dear, George has got to get through for Schultz. He's got to get through, and he hasn't pushed the situation, which could be for Alexander Schultz. You know, he might lose that position, but he's still on track here, and he's still likely to be scoring points.
Yeah, as you say, Alexander's pretty close, but also Philip Enrique is close by as well. But Magnus Dahlgren is currently under pressure from Ethan Funk. We've had a few off tracks, but we've had such good action. I haven't really gone back to have a look at them, but I think we'll do that now. There's quite a few to whittle through.
Okay, well, let's catch you up with some of what has happened already. Yeah, Gilles Lalonde in the Panos, the only Panos in the field, gets it all wrong going into turn one. Can he get it stopped? He can't, and unfortunately runs out through the grass there as well. So Gilles Lalonde unfortunately taking a big old jump on the grass. Peter Meyer.
He's just off the track for some reason at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the one we were looking at earlier on.
Right, yeah, it was. Yeah, maybe he's just trying to get out. I don't. Maybe he just fancies having a go at cutting the grass. Tom Mountjoy.
Is this the CMS Lawnmower Association, is it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, same corner as we saw other drivers go off. We've got Kevin Torrance having a moment here. And then Becky Ely.
Oh no, what's Becky been up to? She's coming into the same corner, dropping off there as well.
She gone quite wide though.
Was she in the barrier?
Yeah, she did, yeah. Same
coming
corner.
Into turn one, yeah. Turn one seems to be the tricky handling. I'm wondering if that's where they're coming off at so fast paced. They're dropping from what banking there is there. If you watch the car, they come off, then they get all out of shape. You see the front left shoot up there as well. So for Kevin Torrance in that Marcos, so maybe that's where the problem is lying. The car's just getting all out of shape, rolling down.
I did highlight that, didn't I, during the qualified session as we watched Joe Zurich do the same thing again that he did a couple of laps ago. He's also had another off track in the same corner. Oh no! I think the game's reported both of them because he went back on the track and then went back off again. Yeah. Becky has had another moment somewhere. Just running deep there. It's unlike her.
Yeah, I'm wondering with Becky whether or not she's now a little bit more free-spirited and Pika. Yeah. Pekka going off, Pika going off. Sorry, you'll have to let us know which way round it is there as well. As they're coming off.
Ben Borman's lost the position there as well. He lost P1 with that mistake.
Yeah, but I think that may have had to do with Kevin Torrance in that Marcos breaking a little bit earlier on for Ben Borman, and he just kind of wasn't ready for it as we're going still. We might as well just put a camera at the end of turn one here, Paul, and just catch them all as they're coming through. And there is the Panos going off once more. That is, of course, your
Here we go, turn one again, love it.
Yeah. Come off the thing, into the go, unsettle the car, round he goes for that number 25 machine. That is Mountjoy again. Gilles Lalonde again in turn one, going off the side of the circuit, and turn two for Gilles Lalonde. Well done there, sir. So we're already past turn one now. That's Vasilis Kateranakis, and that is Ben Borman off the side of the circuit once more. So turn one looking at really being the flashpoint here this evening, Paul.
Yeah. It's proving to be a little bit challenging for some of the drivers, isn't it? Quite surprising. But I think that's the thing, is that it's that banking that's clearly unsettling the cars a little bit. But I guess what is even more surprising is you got drivers making the same mistake multiple times and not learning from it.
I think that's the thing. The problem is, it's like, as Ross says there as well, yeah, it's a full commit corner, but there's a lot of geometry change in that turn. And it is, you're coming off obviously the banking of the outside, almost that low amount of banking, and then dropping it down onto a flat surface. It's going to unsettle the car as you come through. Just got to make sure you're getting it right, aren't you, Paul? Otherwise, turn one is going to be a lot of action here tonight as Magnus Dahlgren again comes off again. You can see the car bounce around there as Dahlgren is being chased down by Ethan Funk in that Nissan R390. Dahlgren in that GT1 here as well. So wiggling around now.
Slightly different line there. Did you notice that from Ethan joining the track, joining that part there? As yeah, we've got the back marker Porsche there. I don't know if they saw him.
It's a difficult one, isn't it?
Yeah, the speed difference at that point, I mean, especially on the brakes as well. I mean, the GT1s are just a much faster car. I mean, the fastest lap on the GT1s has been done by Oliver Day, which is a 1:17.6. The fastest lap from the GT2 has been a 1:23.9. So
that was by Gilles Lalonde, wasn't it?
What, the fastest GT2?
Yeah, what did you say it was?
1:23.9.
Katarinakis in the Mustang. Yeah. As Ethan Funk is trying to take that position away from Dahlgren. He's not having much luck, but he's in prime positions. We're going on to that run now before they come into turn 10 and 11, I believe, this time around. And they're going to drop off and then come in here as well. My shifter had false reads from 5th to 2nd into turn 1. Killed the engine the second time it did it. Fanatec can go straight to...
hell, I think that's what it's going to be. Yeah.
No, it's a H-pattern gearbox, mate. That's what it is.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. I think that's why Ross probably blew his engine in qualified.
Really?
There's a car off there, isn't there? We'll find out who that is. I think that might be Mountjoy.
Again. Turn 1.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Push the buttons. Oops. There we go. Oh, having a moment. There we go.
On Mountjoy off at turn 1 as we will resolve the issue with the black screen guys that we have got in front of us.
Why it does that? There we go.
At the moment. There we go. There is Tom Mountjoy trying to recover that Porsche 911 GT1 here as well. And does get it back up and running and underway. 22 laps down of 71. And at the moment, everybody is fairly spread out, apart from Dahlgren and Funk. I've got a funny feeling we just put Denny into the pits
as well are pretty close too. So, yeah, they're the closest battles out on track currently.
Yeah, Oliver Day has gone into the pits, mind you, as well. So Oliver Day in the pits, and we'll wait for him to come out the other side and see what kind of time he's got on the board. And Jason Whitehead and Alexander Schultz are battling away, but it is the Dahlgren and Funk battle that you can see on your screen currently here as well. So Ethan Funk still trying to get past Magnus Dahlgren. This would be massive for Kirby if Funk gets through there, isn't it? I think that's going to be the interesting thing, that he, from Kirby's point of view, he needs him to get past Dahlgren.
Yeah, I think he does need to get past him, doesn't he? Yeah, but like I say, I think it's trying to go for the overcut, and it's all about, you know, how those tyres are behaving, right? But it looked to me like he had more of the pace, so the fact that's a great move there. Trying to make a great move by Funk even on Gulbury. Oh, there's somebody's off in the background.
Is that Ferrari?
Oliver Day.
Oh no!
It's Oliver Day.
Oh, what should have been your on-track leader after the pits has gone and spun it up here. Oh, you dive. You dived. Why? Why? Where was you expecting Stephen, I'm sure that one is Stephen Miller, isn't it? Or is it, yeah, it is Stephen Miller. Where was you expecting Miller to go? See, that's where we were talking about racecraft and patience.
Yeah.
There was no need for it from Oliver Day.
No.
He nearly ruined two people's races all in one go.
Yeah.
Look, it's just the same replay, isn't it? Oh no, this is Becky Ely going off, funny enough, into turn 2, goes in deep after turn 1. Well, I suppose technically she made it through turn 1. Can we have a look at the Day incident again, if possible, please?
Yeah, sure. We can do that for you, James. Anything for you.
Thank you very much. You know what I mean? Yeah, I appreciate it. So we keep an eye on Becky Ely. But here is that replay again. Look how far he comes. Where is he physically expecting Stephen Miller to go? Miller's not even expecting it. And Katarinakis. So that, for me, Oliver Day, get your hand out, boy. Go see your mummy. You get a slap on the wrist, because that was just ridiculous trying to go through there. You've only got a couple of corners, and then you would have been on the straight to wait. I don't physically understand that. That, to me, was ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous there from Oliver Day, and he's still trying to keep in front of Stephen Miller, and he is in front by 2.6 seconds. We'll keep an eye out for Kirby. Funk is in, Whitehead's in, Becky Ely's in. Ely's had a bit of a rough first start here to this one, and we'll see if Kirby goes in there as well. I think Oliver was just caught a bit late on braking. He wouldn't typically go for a dive.
Yeah, I mean, you got to remember that Kirby's LMGT1 and Day's GT1 AM, so different classes, both leading their relative classes still. Magnus Dahlgren is 21 seconds behind, so but there's still a battle raging on for well actually these guys are in the pits. Ethan Funkin, I know Whitehead is in the pits. Suvek's just gone past them both now, so he's up into P6. Daniel Kirby's in the pits now as well, James.
Yeah, we'll see how Kirby gets in and whether or not, well, Oliver Day cost himself there as well, so it's likely that Day might not get the jump as he's sitting down in 7th overall at the moment. There is Oliver Day there as well. I think for you, Mr. Smith, you're being a little bit airy on the side of defensive there as well. I think Oliver Day, I think he missed his breaking point, but he really needed to show
James just loves a back marker ram. He just loves it.
It's not a ram. It's just make sure you do things cleanly.
Yeah,
that was
risky. It was very, very risky, and I appreciate that he just completed his pit stop as well. And I don't know. I think that was coming round for to complete the first outlet following his pit stop. So, but what as you can see, Day's gone past, so Kirby's now left the pits. So I think it's back as we were, isn't it? I'll let everything all sort itself out. But
give it a minute there as well. I think Dan Kirby is going to be the overall leader with Suvik and Day. Year 1, 2, 3. Brian Hall, I don't believe, has gone into the pits yet, even though I'm sure he had a drive-through. So it's whether or not he did actually go through. I don't remember him on that one.
Well, I think one of the penalties is because somebody didn't serve a drive-through in the last race within the 3 laps that they're supposed to be served. So, and that was to Ewan, but Ewan's not racing. So, because in the last race they served it on lap 10. So I guess somebody goes painstakingly back through the race and has a look to see if people serve their penalties, because the game doesn't have the ability to do penalties themselves. So yeah.
Well, guys, you can direct all DMs to the Mr. Paul Glover at CMS there as well with the tagline, "You've called it again."
Pack it in. Right, pack it in. Yeah.
Hey, I'm just saying, I've been through this loads of times. I agree with you. That's the weirdest thing. I just don't say it out loud. because
Well, I don't care.
I end up DM. You call it a game, James. You call it a game, and it's like, well, I'm not being rude, but you do come
I'll
home,
just
sit
block
in
them.
front of your
I'll
computer,
just
and you
block
play
them.
a
It's not a problem. I'll just block them. It's not a problem.
Well,
I
it's a bit
I have
hard
an
when-
opinion and I like to share it. So
yeah, but obviously, we're on a different stardom level here, Paul. It's a bit hard for me being slightly higher up the food chain.
yeah. You can live in that bubble of yours if you want, James. It's absolutely fine by me. And if that's what you care about, and if that makes you happy, James, I'm pleased for you. I'm delighted for you. Yeah.
I was going to get it in now. I just had to get it in as well. As you see, Dan Kirby in second place at the moment. I believe there is Oliver Day, who's leading the LMGT1.
Yeah, but he is in P3 overall, so he has lost out, which we kind of expected. But I guess what's going to happen when Brian Hall, who's pitting now? So where's he going to come out? Well, I think there's.
He's going to come out behind. Or maybe.
Yeah.
Day. I'm saying that Day's not really doing himself any favours, trying to go on the outside line now. But I think Hall may be okay. He is okay. Day has gone through, and Hall is now third. Can Hall keep it in front of Ethan Funk, though? That's going to be the question. And Felipe Enrique. Now, we've lost. Why is Magnus Dahlgren all the way down in 8th? Apart from a very longer pit stop that I can see, why is he down in 8th place? He's lost a bunch of time through that pit cycle, and it looks like he might come out behind Alexander Schultz in 6th place for Dahlgren. If it stays where it is at the moment, next week at Laguna Seca, for Dan Kirby, for Becky Ely, for Ross Smith, and for Peter Meyer, they don't even have to turn up. They've already wrapped up the championship. We're going to catch a replay here as well. This is Mountjoy again. Oh, dude. Not leaving himself enough braking room there, Paul, and unfortunately going off to the side. What is Kataranakis? Well, you just missed that altogether there, dear sir. Unfortunately for Kataranakis. Well, he didn't any of it, did he?
No, but that's what Becky did earlier on as well, wasn't it? So very similar.
Yeah, he didn't seem to hit anything there, did Kataranakis. So, unfortunately for him, Dahlgren's down in 6th now. So that pit cycle has not been good to him.
We haven't picked up a different strategy to everybody else, perhaps.
What do you think that would comprehend?
I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there as just an idea. I have no information that tells me otherwise, or any kind of real insight. I'm just throwing it there that it could just be doing a different strategy. Could be making the tyres last longer potentially. Could be that. I mean, most people might be stopping 2 to 3 tyres. Maybe he's just trying to eke out the pit stops, and it will come back to him later in the race.
Well, there you go. That's the philosophy, as we got Stephen Miller in the LMGT AMS. He is just going past the Kataranakis, who's in 2nd in the LMGT2 Pros. Then you've got Torrance Meyer and Yilitalo, I guess, as we give it another pronunciation. By the end, we'll have 10 for that name here as well. I'm sure there is a more sensible way of pronouncing it, as Dahlgren is now in 4th in class, 5th overall, and he's got Alexander Schultz and Kataranakis there as well. You can see the unsettling of that Toyota GT1 there, Paul, as he come off that banking into turn 1. It does give the car a big old wobble up, and they've got to be a little bit careful, otherwise we'll have a selection of Benny Hill moments going down into turn 1 here.
Yeah, it is quite an aggressive way to get back, to the banking or off the banking, and I wonder what it feels like to drive. It looks rather aggressive on the outside, but things don't always translate to what what it looks like on the outside to the inside of the car. So, yeah.
I think, to be honest, probably a wing and a prayer might have something to do with it, to make sure that our back end don't go light. And if you find a way where it doesn't go light, just keep repeating that process and do it, and hopefully that it doesn't go right. You know, we've seen in other series as well with Porsches that we've now come to the tagline of Porsche doing Porsche things, which means it's basically Christine off the Stephen King film, and it does whatever it likes at times as well. But if you can try and run a line through turn one and make it work for you coming off that banking, you've surely got to try and hit every same marker again and again and again and again, and you've got to do it for the next 41 laps here, because otherwise the grass is waiting for you, and you can pull an old Bottas and start cutting the grass there as well, as we get an ooh from Mr. Paul.
Easy for you to say, yeah. Magnus has done the fast lap of the race. He's currently showing some real pace.
Right, well, we'll see. He's got a long old gap, mind you, to Dan Kirby. He's got 27 seconds.
He has, but the next car up the road is only 7 seconds, and he's closing that down at a rapid rate, because he's at least a second or two quicker on the car ahead.
Let's see here as well. The car ahead, of course, of Magnus Dahlgren is Felipe Enrique. Last time out, 120.4 for Enrique, 119.6 for Dahlgren. So he took out 8 tenths of Enrique here as well. I get to have the most insurmountable pleasure I've ever had of talking to an individual, as I'm joined once more by Mr. Ross Smith.
Totally, yeah. Wow. Wow.
When you get superstars into the booth, mate, you have to make them feel like they're the most important person in my life. And for that brief moment, Mr. Smith was. However, when he blew his engine up earlier on, that was a different kettle of fish altogether. Welcome in, Mr. Smith.
Welcome back. Not how I wanted to be in here with you guys, but always a joy.
Oh my God, what was Mika doing there? Oh, dearie me, I see you go off track there, sir, but God blimey, doing this and you're going to be in trouble more and more often than you think there, as well, as we saw his rejoin some questionable. Yeah. That's turn one there as well. That's Gilles Lalonde going round. Ross, that's got to be a little bit of a conversation with our new friend there, Pika, because that could have been a lot worse than what it actually was. He got away with it there.
It looked like he might have tagged the grass a little bit, and that just upset the car. I honestly, I think he's probably kind of struggling with the 993 as it comes into some of the later phases of the tire wear. It's definitely a difficult car. It's very confident early on in the run, but as soon as you start to burn off fuel and that weight shifts and the tires start to go away, it's a total Jekyll and Hyde scenario. So I think he's starting to experience that right now. And you're just seeing it with small mistakes that just lead to bigger excitement.
Yeah, and that's where that saying comes from, Paul. We spoke about earlier on the Porsche doing Porsche things, yes, because it is about as predictable, well, as Man United winning a football game. Who knows what they're going to do? They might lose, they might win, they might draw, they might, I don't know, whatever. But that's about as predictable as the Porsche is here. Some great driving earlier on from Oliver Day. I know you were very defensive of him, Ross, in chat. He missed his break, or he doesn't normally dive, and the others went early. But isn't that what we were talking about earlier on with Racecraft being that moment that you are going to expect them cars? Because he did come from a long way back. He didn't just send it. That was like FedEx airmail. You know what I mean? He come from quite far back there. And I know you want to give him justification and say, yes, he missed his braking point because the others braked early. But surely a little bit of sensibility in that one would have probably made that a lot easier for him.
Well, that's a very tough place. As you saw Vasilis kind of going through that section there back in T1, T2, it's a blind corner. So when you're coming around, you're fully committed. You're looking for that apex. So as soon as you clear it, there is not a large amount of space between where you're turned in at turn 1 and where you're hitting your braking zone for T2. And when he sees those cars almost stop on the racing line, you go into panic mode, and I think he did exactly what any one of us would have done, and hard on the brakes, and you just turn to where there aren't cars, which is towards the inside. Oh, It's like one of the, I think that was Torrance around.
Yeah, Torrance and the Marcos, I believe, was around earlier on. I do understand that, but is that amount of anticipation, that moment of being aware of your racetrack surroundings here, as we are going to have a look back and see what happened to Kevin Torrance, as well as he seems to go and get that all a little bit wrong, dealing with the switch up to the banking this time, coming out of 14 and not actually coming off at 1. So Torrance was going the other way there and has lost that Marcos as well. But do you think that for Oliver Day, that racecraft, that moment of patience, that get on the brake a little bit earlier, because there wasn't room for him to go through if he was going at full pace anyway, Ross. And this is what I just don't understand with certain racing drivers. There wasn't room there. So brake a little bit earlier. Let the guys get through. Then go and overtake them. Come on. You got to see a little bit there of what I'm going on about.
Well, it's certainly easy for us to say, this or that or up here. But I mean, if you're in the car going into that corner, it can be a complete shock when there's just suddenly something where you weren't expecting it to be. And I think he did what he needed to do. I mean, he could have just slowed up a bit more, maybe. I think he's just trying to press his advantage as much as he could against Kirby to try and get that overall. Because I think his position within class is sort of like in question at the moment. Which is a good pass there by Dahlgren.
He's just put it in the wall. That was there as well, unfortunately. Was that Enrique in the Red Bull liveried machine? Yeah. He's just gone and chucked it in the wall there. And unfortunately for Enrique, it was, as nice as it was from Dahlgren, he's in the wall on the left-hand side here as well. This is Gilles Lalonde. Poor Gilles in that Panos is not having a good time. He just cannot get that car stopped. Going into corners, Becky Ely stays out of trouble and through she goes. This is there with Enrique. Takes a lot of the curb, gets it, still accelerating on the curb. That's a bit of a crazy thing to do, and the car just got a massive snap and unfortunately put him into the wall there, Ross, as well. We were talking about a battle of being able to keep your mental ability, because Dave,
catch yourself up.
I caught myself up there, but he just hit the wall.
Yeah.
And Timon Suvic stopped out on circuit as well.
That looked like he was just a little bit too much on the Castro.
No, he is literally not going anywhere. And he is.
What does he hit?
I don't know.
He had to have heard something.
And then Torrance getting it all wrong again. You've already saw him sliding, and there he goes, unfortunately, for Kevin Torrance. He does remind me of a bit of a Barry Dimarzo moment at the moment as well.
Yeah.
So Mountjoy, well, he didn't hit any of that apex whatsoever in the car and completely goes off track. I can't remember where he was with Barry Dimarzo, but he had an absolutely rotten race as well, and I can't think back to where he was, but it was just almost a Barry Dimarzo Benny Hill show, unfortunately. And unfortunately, yeah, and maybe it was. And then we got Kevin Torrance kind of doing the same thing. Kirby can wrap this up this week here, Ross. He's only got a win. Dahlgren where he is, can't catch him going into Laguna. Another championship wrapped up. That's pretty much all of your championships done. I think even with the CMS Pro going to be taking the win in the teams by the time we get to Laguna. What do we think if they are all done and there's nothing on the line, there's nothing fighting for? Do we think we're still going to get 20 plus drivers for the turnout for the season finale at Laguna?
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's not necessarily based for the teams or drivers championships. You're going to get guys that just want to go out and have fun and race. So it's probably going to be similar, maybe even a little bit more, just because Miami drivers don't know as well, and you get this sort of, I don't know, this sim racer anxiety when you see a track you've never been on. It's like, I don't have any confidence. I've never raced there before. Like at the upper echelons, I should say. And Laguna is definitely a known factor, so I think you're going to see numbers up a little bit for that. You've got the famous corkscrew, of course, and it's really a driver's track. A lot of fun commit corners, but there are some here too. I really wish there were a few more drivers that had been able to make it out for this one, because it's definitely a delight. James Mabe, Sirius Cloud, who does the the JM Tracks, who provided this one. Did an excellent job getting it ready, and he's one of our partners too at SGS, so he's done a fantastic job. As we got a great battle here going on between these two, Nissan and the Toyota. It's great to see these two matched up. They're very interesting, very different cars from each other.
Yeah, I think that's Jason Whitehead in the Nissan R390 and Alexander Schultz in the Toyota GT1 as they're coming into that tricky corner, as we've seen so many people come across the grass at us here at round turn 2. Then they're going to go into the looping of 3, round the right-hander of 4 before they go back out onto the track itself. And now it's once again a run. How do you find the circuit, Ross, as well? Because a lot of people I've spoken to don't really find this an exciting circuit. It's, you know, for me, it's just oh, dude, if you're going to let him through, come on, bro. Not there. Oh, I think me and Pika need to have a little bit of a chat here. I'll tell you.
That looked pretty good to me.
I thought that was
Again,
okay, that one, to be honest, if you're James.
I don't. No, I'm not. No. Not
2 against 1. I think you've lost the argument, James.
That's what my wife says, but then I asked her what level personality I'm dealing with, so it's a little bit unfair. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, there as well. Yeah, fine. They did crash into him, so I suppose that was a success. As Alexander Schultz is under attack here as well. Oh, go on there as well. Whitehead. It's good to see Jason Whitehead having a good final, well, a penultimate race here. He's had a bit of a rough season, hasn't he, Whitehead in general, there as Kirby comes through as well. So I think for Whitehead to be sitting into 7th place, I think that's good for him. He had a rough couple of races there, Ross. So it's great to see him sort of bounce back and get some confidence back.
Yeah, and 5th in class with take Oliver Day kind of out of the equation, and George Angelidis. Both of them really are running at pro pace, especially in their Ferraris. The Ferrari is just it's a lightning bolt around here. You just, even if you're running down an AM, it does a tremendous job. But yeah, Jason's been nice commit on running outside of Brian there, but good job on both of them, really giving each other some good room, especially with some of that GT2 traffic coming up. Yeah, I think that's Meyer kind of going off there. But Jason, I mean, he's always been a strong competitor. I've loved racing with him. I've loved being on teams with him. When I first started with CMS, he was, one of the first friends I made, you could say. He's very open, very willing to share setups, very good at just being a great team player and a great driver and competitor. But he's recently kind of struggled with some personal things. I know that he still has an injury he's recovering from. So yeah, it's good to see him starting to come back from that a little bit. It's at Mountjoy again.
Yeah, Gilles Lalonde coming off 1. He's got it all a little bit wrong as well. We didn't really hit his braking point. I think he was waiting for the car to steady up beforehand. Yep. Mountjoy once more off the 1 into the bump. Bro, we could literally do a highlight reel, just all the cars going off at turn 1. There was like 5 earlier on. Wasn't it 5 or 6, Paul, we had of cars just going off at turn 1 after the other, after the other.
Yeah, it was like a montage. It was amazing. Yeah. Great work on the broadcast.
Yeah. Yeah, that individual did really well, to be fair.
Yeah, to be fair. Yeah, I did a great job picking all those out.
Yeah. All there was pressing that button there, as we see Enrique in the background. I can give him grief, Ross. I know how hard it is when I do the modern one, so fair play doing 2 at 1 here. But yeah, George Angelidis at the moment is sitting in LMGT 1 abs. I'll send you an apple in the morning, Paul. It'll be all right.
Thanks, mate. I really appreciate that. That's really nice of you. I do like an apple. I've got some in my fridge.
I'll put it on the table as I walk into class, as Pika there looks like he's going to go and... I'm not quite sure where you were going, but wherever you were going, welcome back, basically.
That was a little bit of a...
Torrance! No!
Pika actually was having some issues earlier on. I know he was in front of me after my first off, and he just looped out of existence, and I was like, well, that was the easiest pass I'll have all day.
Before the event, I dropped from the server, which is very unusual. So I was like, oh. But I think since then everything's been okay. So I checked everything looks okay on my end. I just think it was just a bit of a blip.
Yeah, it does happen, mate, unfortunately, as well, as Dan Kirby is out in front and he's leading by 35 seconds. Yeah, no, he's 35 over Funk, and he's doing an absolute stellar job. The man of few words when I have a chat with Dan, no matter how much I prize him, he's a man of very much humility. He sits back and he just doesn't gloat, he doesn't do anything there as well. This is the halfway stand-ins, I should say. Sorry, lost my words there. As Dan Kirby out in front with Ethan Funk and Magnus Dahlgren. That's your 1, 2, 3. That does mean if they stay as they are, Kirby will be champion. Dahlgren can't catch him in Laguna. John Uyan sitting in 4th. Then we've got George Angelidis leading the AMs. Good job from him as we jump down into 11 with Gilles Lalonde and Philippe Enrique Timon Suvic. Becky, yeah, thanks, mate. I'm glad you went back. What did you do? Backwards or forwards there? Mount Johnny with Katalakis.
I didn't know if you were going to read them all or not. And normally I talk to you in your ear, but it's a bit different when I'm in the booth. So yeah, you could have just muted yourself on broadcast.
Could have
done. Yeah, I could do. I could do that. Couldn't I?
I've read them now. That's it. Job done. Thank you very much for that one there from our wonderful producer, who has given me the half time. And of course we got Ross Smith in the booth who, after his DNF, blowing his engine up as well. Ross, what actually did happen? Because we haven't really spoken to you about your own incident there. So what did actually happen? What was was it a gremlin somewhere that we're thinking?
Yeah, Fanatec unfortunately has this known issue with their H patterns where the Hall effect sensor is really close to where the moving part on the shifter is, and if it's too close, then it actually causes a short, which makes it think that it's a gear lower than it is, which obviously is not ideal when you're downshifting and going for 4th, and it says, oh, 2nd? Sure, here you go. Why don't you just dump that power load into your engine and blow it out the back? So,
yeah.
Look at these. Oh, yeah.
Look at this. It's like it is literally Katamanaka's here as well. It's like a turn 1-2 montage. Oh, but people sliding off there as well. Ross before he did.
No, that was 11. That was turn 11.
Was that 11?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
down into 12. 11 into 12. That's kind of unusual there. That's normally I'm used to seeing it coming off 11 because of full commit. Yeah. There's once again. He's really struggling with that Marcos. He's been kind of bouncing around between a few. Alec King confirmed Ross can't drive a stick shift.
Well,
can't drive a broken one.
Well, there you go. And now I believe Dahlgren as well coming into 2. He's off the side of the circuit, unfortunately, for Magnus Dahlgren there as well. Still manages to hang on to his 3rd place. Dan Kirby. Oh, no. Okay, we're going back live. I thought Dan Kirby was going off there as well. We've got people quite spread out at the moment. George Angelidis has got Jason Moyer not too far. John Uyan not too far in front of him at the moment as well. So that's probably where the closest battle is. Everybody else is quite spread out. Was that kind of expected here, Ross, at this circuit, just because of the nature of it?
Well, certainly there are a few cars that are coming into power here that, like I mentioned, the Ferrari is really strong here.
Yeah.
The Porsches are going to struggle a little bit towards the back end of their stint. Some of them will, but just because of the nature of it. But yeah, it's a different track, and I'm just kind of more interested in what's happening with a lot of the fuel strategies too, because as you see some of these guys going full beans through here, it's going to shake out to be really close when they come into the final stint as to how much they're going to need. And with the variations between the cars in terms of the fuel side, like the fuel capacity, and their burn rates, it's going to cause it to align in such a way, I think, that we're going to see that it might bring some of these drivers closer and push a few other ones out that might have otherwise been doing pretty well.
So, there we go. Let's see how that one pans out. I think George Angelidis is in the pits again. I think he's going to lose that lead to Oliver Day there, as that was a Viper of Dave Coors, I believe, coming out of the pits, and Gilles Lalonde, who is in unfortunately, that Panos has not had a good time. That Panos is not loving that turn 1 bump. I can tell you that much, with Felipe Enrique coming up behind him as well. For Gilles Lalonde, it's going to be a tough one, as Enrique's literally below that second gap. He's got to get it up there as well. Gets it up, but does he get it fast? Action and moving forward for Gilles Lalonde through 14-15. Now we go into 1. Over the bump we go. There's the bump that flicks the back end. We've got Torrance coming out of the pits at the same time. He manages to get Enrique get through. But boy, oh boy, there as well. Yeah, that was a very interesting pit exit there, Ross. I think as well. What are your rules on generally though with these guys with sort of pit exits? Would we expect Torrance to sort of slow up a little bit more to let these cars go through before he comes out smack bang right next to them?
Look, James, it's case by case every single time. Obviously, you want to give each other room as much as you can, and during the driver's brief, which I never go to, George is always on, give each other room. Don't cross the line. There's a fairly big commit line on this track, but yeah, it's just a tight turn 1. It's not too dissimilar to Sebring. It's a bit on the other side where drivers are coming out, so it's a bit of a mirror. And you just do not have a lot of space. It's a full commit corner. It's just always going to be close. I don't think you can get around that. And short of just telling guys to park it until you've looked 3 times and then you go out, you just kind of have to accept that that's how it is.
Well, that's what my driving instructor told me many years ago as well. Look and look again, just in case you miss particularly a biker at that point. Yeah, just in case you torpedo one into a bush somewhere. You know what I mean? They do come and thick and fast here as well. This is Gilles Lalonde. He's got there holding up with, I believe he's battling Gilles Lalonde. Is that Enrique behind? But there's a car in the middle, isn't there? I'm trying to work out. Is it Hall or Mountjoy in the middle?
No, it's Hall. It's a Mercedes.
Yeah, so it might be Hall in Brian Hall there as well, who's trying to get past. That's Ben Borman going down the bottom end of our screen. But to be fair for Brian Hall, knowing how much of a bad race Gilles Lalonde had.
Brian Hall, I think.
I think it is, isn't it in the Mercedes there?
Oh, it is. Sorry, yeah, you're right. It is. I was clicking on the wrong car.
Okay.
That would help. Yeah.
Yeah. Generally as well, we were just praising how well you were doing.
Oh, yes, I know. But you tried running 2 PCs in this game. Sorry, Sim.
Will you stop calling it a game? You're going to get us fired out of this one.
I don't
keep doing that.
Yeah, well, it is what it is.
You know what I mean? It's a production game that takes a lot of Ross.
It does. It takes a lot of time and effort to get this thing working. Yes, it does. It does.
That's what, mate, I know. Trust me, for the modern, it does the same thing. But we,
Oh boy, here we go.
Muscled on once more. We've got back markers.
That's
we've
Becky.
got Becky. She cannot bury that corner. Every time for Becky Ely, there's a corner that's coming out and biting her on the bottom, and unfortunately, it looks like that one there as well for these guys. This racing is getting very, very close there. That's Ben Borman in the middle. Brian Hall has just gone past him. Gilles Lalonde now with Felipe Enrique. Enrique's got to go and take it up the inside if he can. Borman's running that outside line. He's allowing you through. Now you need to swap over because you're going to have the inside for that run down into turn 8. Enrique does go through with Borman sitting behind him here as well. Now for Becky Ely, she's now got to also try and get past Ben Borman. Of course, this isn't a battle in for position, I believe. I think Ely is a couple of laps ahead of Borman, and Borman does allow her through there once more. So close action racing here, Ross, amongst these guys as well. Further down the order, the front 6 at the moment, I was quite spread out across the overall. You know, Kirby out in front by 30 seconds. Funk is out in front for 12 over Dahlgren, who's 38 in front of Hall, who's 4 in 5 in front of Whitehead. Oliver Day has just gone past Whitehead as well. Whitehead's in the pits, and Uyan's in the pits as well. You know, it's a very spread out race. When do we think they're going to come together? Because we normally have this thing where they sort of separate, and then by the end of the race everybody comes out and goes back together once their pit stop strategies work out.
Yeah, let's see what happens in the next 10 to 15 laps here, because I think that's going to really start to set it up for for the end of the race, because you're going to be really, that's going to be where you're kind of teetering around some of those final stints where drivers have to come in for fuel. Some of them are going to be taking a gamble on whether or not they change tires, and that's going to be where you get some of the more exciting battles where it's like, okay, here's somebody who's going to try and stake it out and get a gap ahead and hold on to the tires that they have, and their closest competitor behind is swapped up and now they're Superman, and here they come flying through the field. But of course, you've got GT2s, you got people flying off track. I mean, that's the excitement of endurance racing. It can always throw a wrench right into any one of those strategy calls.
We're in one of these situations where I think it's probably best I get advice before I open and say what I think here. We've got... I know, I'm thinking before I speak. Amazing. Check me out. We've got Gilles Lalonde, okay, sitting down in 10th. He's battling away with Enrique. We've got Brian Hall, who is now in the overall lead. Should we expect Gilles Lalonde to remove himself from the equation, shall we say?
Well, knowing Gilles, he won't do that, but
No,
he's going to keep
not.
going. He's just going to keep doing his thing. I mean, I don't know that he's going to do anything particularly compromising here, but he's just going to keep running his race as he's entitled to. But obviously, you've got Kirby. He unfortunately came out in a really awkward spot now because he's right up there behind Brian. Brian, I think, is going to have to come in to fuel up, though. I think he's towards the end of one of his stints at this point.
There's a Ferrari going up the inside there as well. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, that was a George Angelidis. I think that was Oliver Day.
Yeah, there it goes diving down.
Yeah, Oliver Day there as well. Dan Kirby sitting in net second with Brian Hall in front. I can guarantee Brian Hall is not sitting there thinking, yeah, you carry on, Gilles, because I've got the net leader behind me and you're still sitting in front of me in a very loosely Bambi on ice Panos that does finally remove itself and go into the pit lane, which I've got to be honest, Gilles, a couple of laps too late for Brian Hall as he was trying to open up as much as the gap as he possibly did. He got held up in that group of cars there as they come down into turn 1 and turn 2. So Enrique has gone past Gilles Lalonde. Lalonde's in the pits. I think that's going to be Dan Kirby. Can he get that out on 21 laps though, Ross? What do we think? It's going to be close, isn't it?
Yeah, he might have to splash and dash to the end. I can't imagine. I mean, he's really great when it comes to doing what he needs to. Has a lot of laps to stretch that car out, even with a good gap in front of him. Brian's going to have to come in soon.
Yeah, he let off there as well. He hit brakes midpoint now as well. Austin Draper. Let's go, JP. I was watching the Formula Cars, but you're also streaming. Well, I'm not. Paul is, but yes, we are on here as well for the CMS Factor 2. I get to sit back and chill out for this one. I do quite enjoy this as we just watched Dan Kirby go past Brian Hall, who didn't really put up a fight. It was kind of a Mike Tyson, Frank Bruno moment. I'm just, sitting here and discussing some great racing with, of course, our very own Mr. Ross Smith, why I get instructions from our very own Mr. Glover in my ear at the same time. So thank you. I can hear you. We know. You're like a looming voice that I cannot remove for the next 21 laps, Mr.
They
Glover.
have pills for that.
There are pills for a lot of things here, Ross Smith. And let's just say, we won't go into that, do we, before we end up really committing before we commit broadcasting Harry Carey as well, as Dan Kirby is coming up behind Stephen Miller. That's Oliver Day on our right-hand side in that Ferrari. The Ferrari's had insane amount of pace. Kirby caught him going into the middle section, and then Day just went away on the straights. Kirby couldn't get past, caught right up in the corners, and then basically in the end Oliver Day went into the pits. Kirby didn't. They come out of the pits, spun it up, or missed a braking point, or the others braked early. Whoever you talk to up in the booth will give you a different opinion, and he unfortunately then lost the overall net lead to Dan Kirby. Kirby's got to try and clear Stephen Miller at the moment. Miller's being Miller, he's been somewhat insistent on not completely removing himself from the equation, as Oliver Day there is about 3.2 seconds here once more. So great battle coming in. Oliver Day not too far behind Brian Hall. Hall not too far back from Kirby. Is there much to say about Dan Kirby that we haven't already said here, Ross? Because to be honest, his superlatives, his win record, he deserves to really wrap the championship up. Yeah, a rocky start at the beginning of the season, but he just come back and stronger. But he has had 4 zeros as well. As we went, I don't know, Pique Yelito, that one, unfortunately go off again there as well. So there you go.
Got nervous from Ben or something, and he was out of sorts going into that. Again, it's a very high commitment corner, so yeah, anytime that you're just slightly off, it's very easy to find the grass.
It definitely is. There's Dahlgren there, closing down on Ethan Funk, who is in front in that Nissan L390. Yeah, go back to Dan Kirby, you know, for him to still be in the lead and take 4 zeros and then go out and basically take a second place at Le Mans and then just get wins right the way through. He's on a different level, isn't he, compared to everyone else here?
He's an incredible competitor. I mean, he can jump into anything and just ride the wheels off of it. I mean, we're very blessed to have him on our testing team too, because he's able to find just everything at the fringe. I mean, basically, you know, George will go through, he'll say, John, you know, give me the chassis that is what it should be, because the guy works on cars. He knows mechanics inside and out, you know, for his daily job. I mean, so he knows cars very well. He'll get the car there, and then he'll hand it off. Jerry Chen will look at the schematics and say, hey, you know, you need to adjust this here and this here. And then you give it to Daniel and you say, all right, find the limit. Tell us where every bit of this car is. And he just does it time after time. I mean, the man is a machine when it comes to that stuff. So it's really not surprising to see him come in here and set the bar as like, hey, here's where you need to be at top level. And it's great to see that there are guys that are able to still go after him. I mean, he's certainly not sitting among slouches by any means. I mean, between Dahlgren and Suvik, and I mean, even his teammate John Uyan, I mean, they can all rise to challenge him, but you do have to have absolute commitment. And I think you need to find a little magic and luck in there if you're going to have a shot at taking down the Giant.
Yeah, absolutely. As we see Timon Suvik on the, Magnus Dahlgren on the right. Ethan Funk on your left of your screens there. That is the gap that is closing. Funk here as well. That is Mountjoy, who Funk is just about to put a lap on once more. And there goes Ethan Funk through. You can see Dahlgren coming into the background here once as well, as he's coming off through that turn 11 into the turn 12. Before we go through 13 and 14 and then out onto that start-finish run again here. So nice little close battling as we've got Brian Hall into the pits. Alec King, and then Alec makes the cars look pretty, he said, Ross.
Yes, he's talking about his livery creations, of course. Alec does a wonderful job doing the liveries. We have an extremely talented crew that goes in there. Boreck of Dogan Design. I know I'm mispronouncing that, but he's out of Turkey. He does a beautiful job with a lot of those liveries, and he's very helpful to me in making sure that UV maps are all lined up properly, so that way when it hands off to the rest of the world, that we can be confident that they won't find any issues, everything will be perfect. And yeah, we're surrounded by a great group of people that are putting all of these things together. So, yeah. Cheers to you, Alex. Alec.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, that's what makes a team there as well. Having people surrounding you and some great... That's exactly it. Yes, here as well. Did the broadcast hear that one, Mr. Glover? Oh, okay. Are they hearing you at all at the moment, Mr. Glover? Oh, okay. So, yeah, you've just got it sheltered into the backdrops all of a sudden there as well. We've got 2 drivers on softs, Gilles Lalonde and Timon Suvik by the looks of it here. So Gilles Lalonde and Timon Suvik. Dahlgren is in 4th, still trying to close down on Funk, who is just up there, the bottom of your screen. So Dahlgren is making inroads. This could be a battle for the ages here as well. Even Funk last time out on a 120.060. Dahlgren on a 119.6. 4 tenths between them. Battle for third in class. And if anybody needs this, it is Magnus Dahlgren. Is it going to be enough? Unfortunately, it still isn't. Dahlgren needed to take the win to basically carry this into the last round. Now, obviously, I have done maths on the fly, and if anybody does know, you never trust the commentator's maths anyway. But if Dahlgren finishes here, he's going to get 6. So I make that 63. Kirby's going to get 10, which will put him on 76. 76 and 63. There's no way Dahlgren can catch him. Ross Smith, can you confirm that for me?
Well, I can confirm that by giving Kirby the win already at this point, you're doing everything you can to curse the boy, but...
you underestimate Dan Kirby's driving ability. It's only a curse.
No, absolutely not.
It's only a curse if he's on the screen and we're talking about him at this moment, but we're not looking at him, so technically he doesn't know anything about it.
We're edging the results there just a bit, but yeah, I mean, it's shaping up to be Daniel's event and his series at this point. I mean, really, he has to have something happen to him, you know, either like one of the GT2s yeets into the side of him coming out of the pits or something, or you know, he gets just caught out before it starts raining, which I don't think that's happening at this point. But yeah, it's definitely leaning his way. And I mean, Magnus is still doing what he needs to do. He's trying to get himself up to Funk, and I think that if he can catch Ethan, he can put a pass on him. That Toyota's very fast, although on this track in particular, it doesn't have the, I guess, the edge that probably the Nissan has, because the Nissan can worm its way around the corners just a bit more. Toyota seems to, I mean, once it gets a straight bit of air, it's quick, but man, once it's down into any one of those tight turns, he's just really struggling to get it pointed right back the other way. I mean, you can kind of see him that he's just sort of playing chicken with the split here, just behind Ethan, and not really much changing. He's kind of holding it right at that 3-second mark, I want to say.
Yeah. It's just teetering on the edge. It drops to 2.9 every now and then goes back out to 3. Yeah, he loses time. Last time out did Dahlgren. That's Stephen Miller in front of Dahlgren. Funk has just dispatched. Funk has
Not that he gets Steven, but I just know that, I mean, he's obviously, you know, down in driver class, so he's gonna be, he got around him pretty easily, I guess, there, so it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, well, we're going to cover that as well as we look at a replay here once more. Please don't be Kevin Torrance. Oh, it is Kevin Torrance. Oh, sir. I don't know if you've paid for this circuit, Kevin, or it's completely free, but can we go back to that, please? Because there was a rejoin there where Becky Ely nearly just went and punted Torrance up the bottom. So if you can have a look and watch Kevin Torrance here, there's Becky Ely in the background. Torrance does come back on track. Here comes Becky Ely now. From one side of the circuit to the other, I probably suggest not doing that. Here once more, there is Mountjoy. He's already out of control, and off the side of the circuit he goes. That's into turn 11.
Deja vu.
Yeah. Oh, you saw? Did you not see the bounce on the way in? His back end already was up in the air. Watch, it's there. He's already out of it. Oh, this is a different one. Oh, same corner.
So, from what I've seen, not only with Mountjoy, but some of the other cars, it looks like the guys aren't necessarily accounting for how much the suspension travel needs to have through here, particularly through some of those sections, because they have the car set up for a lot of the flatter corners to be able to just kind of shoot through them, and for the longer straights. So when they're hitting those spots, it's putting the car on the edge. I mean, you can see them squirming as they go down through the turn 1-2 section. You can see them really struggling as they come off of that turn 11 transition down into that turn 12, because it's a very similar sort of setup in terms of, like, you're kind of on the edge, you're right side loaded, and you have to get on the brakes very quickly and hit that commit point, that braking point just right, or else you see exactly what we've been seeing where drivers are caught out. And it's usually just something as small as, you know, the the springs are still moving around a little bit too much. You know, they just get slightly off. They're, you know, just a few centimeters to the side, and they catch some grass, and it's creating havoc.
John Uyan and Brian Hall side by side. Hall made a very late defense coming down into turn 8. It looks like Uyan got a good run out, but then just could not capitalize. Oh, Kevin Torrance in the background there. Oh no, that's Felipe Enrique this time. Foreground. No, he was in. Never mind. As we go on to the start-finish straight once more here. And Brian Hall, there is a Ferrari there who's moved to the side. That's because Dan Kirby's coming through. And I can tell you what, for Uyan here, if he can just allow Kirby to go through and then have a little chat with him, say, oh, slow him up a little bit here as well. And then that might allow Uyan to get past Hall and make it into that 5th place. That's what I personally would do. But who says that's, you know what I mean? Wouldn't you do that, Ross?
Well, I know that Brian's not going to move for anyone, and I'm looking at his strategy right now. I can see why, because he's managed to just make the fuel strategy for that Mercedes work like magic this whole season, and he's doing it again because you saw he was out in front of Dan Kirby when Daniel was coming out from his second stop, and he was still able to survive for quite a few more laps before he had to come in. So I think Brian's playing the long game here. He's going to try and get himself in a position at the end if John doesn't give him a good dooring before the end of it. And of course Daniel's going to come up here too and might be doing the same, although he's kind of just putting him a lap down at this point.
Yeah, John Uyan there. Uyan sent it up the inside. He got the job done. Couldn't get the exit speed. Unfortunately, coming out of turn 8. And then Hall went back past. But now here comes Kirby. And as I said, for Uyan, I would allow Kirby to go at him and try and pull him in a little bit as well, because obviously for Uyan, whatever he does, Hall's got to do the same, and he wants to capitalize on it again. Brian Hall with a very late move, and that's Kevin Torrance up the road there. That's one of the Ferraris. I don't see if that is George Angelidis or if it is Oliver Day, but now, yeah, so that's Oliver Day in front as we got Kevin Torrance, who's had a torrid time here for Torrance. Yeah, Torrance this side. Where are you going? Oh, it's going right across the other side. Oh. Now we're going to be very wide. Torrance is in the mix. There goes Uyan. And there goes Uyan. Off the side of the circuit. He went in deep. He went in absolutely fluid in there. The mixture of the back marker, the mixture of not being able to hit his braking point. And John Uyan said goodbye. He did not stop. There he goes. Off he goes.
I think he couldn't see his brake, one of the signs on the right side. He was just, he was too distracted.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Uyan, that is the run here. He lost that place to George Angelidis, and we know how quick that Ferrari's been. So for Uyan, he's got to see what he can do here as well. Brian Hall has got Angelidis a second back. That's Dan Kirby here. So opinions now though, Ross, because I would be screaming at Brian Hall about now, right? You know, that's the leader. Come on, remove yourself. What's the situation for you from a company point of view, from a league point of view, for the situation of Brian Hall and Dan Kirby? Because right now, as far as I'm concerned, Hall should have been out the way a long time ago.
So it's, I mean, rules as stated are if you're getting the blue flag, then you cannot compete with the passing car. But the passing car, you're just not allowed to obstruct them. You're not allowed to be defensive, which, as we saw there, Brian wasn't. However, it begins to become into a gray area, especially on some of these tracks where the lap times are shorter. Like you're getting to close down to a minute for a lap, because this is a roval and that they tend to be a little bit shorter on time. But he is playing that fuel strategy, and anytime that you can drive your race to give yourself an advantage without breaking the rules, then you're going to do it. And I know Brian Hall is going to always pursue that avenue because he knows what he can do in terms of fuel strategy. And there's Georgia, and I knew those Ferraris are going to be coming in pretty soon. They're going to be getting fuel well ahead of pretty much everyone else in the field. They just suck down the tank like a fat kid in a Wendy's eating a milkshake or something. But yeah, they
No, still, that's if we've offended anyone there. I'm trying to put it in a way that obviously, if that line there did offend anyone, I do deeply apologise there as well. The no filter from Mr. Smith did kick in at that point as well, and maybe a brief forgetfulness of where he actually was as well.
I'm in America, so that
yeah,
sorry. Sorry, everyone. Sorry, kids.
Thank you very much. As John Uyan now is back up to the back end of Brian. That's Mountjoy almost getting close to him there as well. I've got to keep it PG, Mr. Smith. Got to keep it PG here as well. We try and not offend as many people as possible. And as we know, that's not always easily done. So for Uyan, he's got the opportunity again, Ross, to go back at Brian Hall. We know Brian's not going to make it again. Do we think for Uyan and Kirby they're going to have to pit again? Or can Kirby take it, what's that, 7-8 laps now to the end?
Considering how much Kirby was held up there, I don't know. That's a question mark. I'm leaning towards he's going to have to splash and dash, but without seeing his numbers for sure, like what he's getting, I mean, he's still maintaining pace pretty well. I mean, but that's, well, the last lap he pulled a 119, so he might be backing out a little bit. I mean, his fastest is at a 117. Is that to say that he's stepping off pace a little bit to try and control it? I mean, he might be a little bit. I don't know if it's going to make a difference. He might just be controlling it a little bit, so that way he doesn't have to stay stationary for too long. Because these cars do take a while to fuel up. Boy, just watching again that
lovely turn one caused him the problem.
Somebody got a penalty there. That was.
George got a penalty.
Probably speeding on pit road, I'd have to imagine.
So John Uyan is now still. I've got him actually in front of Brian Hall. I think we just missed that. I think he did just make a move. Somebody's engine's on fire here. Who is this in the front? That is the 20. Is that the 25 car? No, that's Mountjoy.
No,
that's not Mountjoy. That's
Dahlgren?
not. Is that Dahlgren's blew it up on the right-hand side coming into the pits? Or is that's not Magnus Dahlgren? Suvik could be his teammate, isn't it? I think Suvik's gone kapuff.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Timon Suvik, engine blown for Timon, and unfortunately he is out. Another interesting battle has commenced as well. Is the LMGT2s between Borman and Kors. That's also half a second back at the moment. So we'll have to see and keep an eye on that one as we're going into the last 7. This is how John Uyan passed Brian Hall. I don't know if there was some confusion of Kataranakis on the right-hand side. Hall then does an Uyan and misses his braking point, goes in. Uyan says, thank you very much, I'll have some of that. And now Uyan has made up for him going off into the Shadow Realm and coming back on and maintaining that position in front of Brian Hall there. So a great job from John Uyan. He recovered, he caught, he passed. And on he goes. You can see Borman and Core in the LMGT2s getting very close together. They're about half a second away from each other. There they are on track. It's all about whether or not Dave Kors can keep that Viper on the circuit here as well, to see if he is able to try and catch up with Borman. Yeah, so we're not surprised there Ross Suvik did DNF due to the fact that obviously he had big puffs of smoke coming out the back end of his car.
Yeah, he's... Sometimes you're just overheating, but that didn't look good. That looked like an awful lot of smoke. We're going to have these GT2s in here. This is going to make this kind of spicy. I know that the Viper is very good on fuel, and it's able to maintain pace. Dave has managed to show that he can be very consistent. We did have that off earlier, but I don't know that he's really had too many issues throughout his run so far. So, I mean, if he can just kind of stay up there with Ben, I think that's going to make it very interesting.
Yeah, Tom Mountjoy having another moment off there as well, unfortunately for Tom. There we go. Suvik has been having HW issues all race long, hardware issues. So there we go. Tom Mountjoy is also having a issue as well, stopping the Porsche 911 GT1 at most points of the circuit. It's a good job. He's seen pretty much most of the circuit there as well has Mountjoy. So a bit of a rough one for him as Dahlgren's now in third. He's trying to chase down Ethan Funk. You can see on the left-hand side the gainers there as well. Funk up 2, Dahlgren down 1, Whitehead and Uyan up 3 and 2 respectively. Miller and Ely have swapped places in the LMGT1s, and then the same for Kors and Kataranakis in the LMGT2s have swapped. Maya is out, I believe. Is Maya still running, or is he out on track? And I think Yili Tallow and Torrance are still going as well, as Dan Kirby still takes the lead here on lap 67. There is Peter Meyer in his Chrysler. He wrapped up the championship a long time ago. Job done for him. He can take a rest at Laguna if he really wants to. Put his feet up, put some slippers on, and put a blanket over him like our very own Paul Glover does most evenings. So there we go. Right, so let's bring Mr. Smith back in. 4 laps to go here, Russ. There's not a lot to say. It's been a very eventful race. Many drivers not getting turn 11 to the run to 12, right, and 1 down into 2. We've seen a lot of pirouettes down there as well. You know, we could have had our own rendition of Swan Lake. People have spun that much, unfortunately. But it's been a very overall fairly decent race. It was spread out quite early on, wasn't it?
Yeah, although that wasn't too surprising, just because you're going to see a lot of the characteristics of the different manufacturers really come into play. And this track is definitely different from a lot of the ones that we've seen so far throughout the season. It's just got a lot of unique characteristics, just all mixed together. A lot of very hard hairpins mixed with some high commit corners like that T1, T2, and then down into 11 and 12. So it's not surprising to see some of these spread out and some drivers getting caught unaware, especially later in the runs. Kind of looking down in the GT2 field, I was impressed to see that the AMs they were kicking it up. I mean, they were despite Pekka's unfortunate things that were going on there, he's managed to kind of keep up there with Meyer early on. He's further back now. He's about 30 seconds away from him, and even Kevin Torrance was kind of right there. They were all together for a bit, but Peter's kind of shown a steady hand, and he's managed to kind of gap himself out there, and he's been able to take it. And then in the GT2s, you know, Dave Core's managing to go up there and get with Ben Borman, although I think he's fallen back away as Bacillus is now closed up.
Yeah, he just pitted by the looks of it.
Yeah. So he got his second one in, and those guys I would have guessed would probably have well, yeah, they should be able to make it through to the end, because they're going to be short couple laps, but they'll as far as how much they're going to have to do on fuel, but they should be all good. I'm not too terribly surprised to see all that. I was hoping that I could be up there fighting with them, but here we are. But yeah, and then you've got the AMs, of course. You know, Ferrari up in GT1s. The Ferraris are just kicking butt. You know, they're almost unstoppable. And Ely, I mean, she complained early on that, and George even he was asking her, she's like, "What do you think about the McLaren here?" And she's like, "You know, I thought A1 ring was going to be the worst. This was the worst track for the McLaren. Just she can't find her footing at all. And I mean, we've seen her go off through that turn 2 exit area just so many times already. She's just miserable, and I know she's not feeling too great outside of that. You know, she's kind of banging on and pulling the season in here as much as she can, so she's a trooper, just kind of carrying on. But obviously at the top of the grid you've got the 3 biggies, Kirby, Funk, and Dahlgren, who are going at it. Cool to see that Jason Whitehead's been able to get up there and make some work with him too. Right now he's right there with I guess John Uyan, who's not far behind him. Oliver Day right behind him there too.
Oh, Torrance and Stephen Miller having a moment now. I'm not really sure if I can look at that again. I've got a funny feeling there. Miller hit that curb and he come over and squeezed Torrance. I wouldn't really put that on Kevin Torrance this time. No. You know, one of the few that he did. Miller hit the inside curve. Now this is Stephen Miller going into turn 12. Is he going to completely, I'm not really sure where he's going, but wherever he's going, he's gone back to the pits there for Stephen Miller. And now he's back out there as well. Phone the police. We've got a wizard amongst us here as well. Kataranakis is off the side of the circuit there, unfortunately for him. Funk, John Uyan and Ethan Funk. This is the battle for P4.
Wow.
Oh, man.
As well, Uyan and Whitehead come in here as well. It's gonna. Ooh, Uyan again. Torrance on the inside.
Oh, man.
Uyan slid it up. Big old power slide from John Uyan. Now he comes to Ferrari. This is going to be Oliver Day, and that Ferrari has got pace for days here as well. Now he drops down off through turn 11, coming into 12. Uyan is not going to get there, unfortunately, and now we're going to go to a replay right now. Here as well, as we watch Magnus Dahlgren come off a turn, I think that was turn 11, and around turn 12, he took a very invert way of doing that, but if we can get back to the action of what was going on there as well, that is Jason Whitehead, Magnus Dahlgren, and Oliver. There's Oliver Day. It was all about John Uyan with Felipe Enrique behind that one as well.
Days around.
Was that on his own though? That's going to be the question. Was that Oliver Day all on his own, or was there some assistance from John Uyan as we wait patiently for our man in the producing booth, Mr. Paul Glover here as well. There is Oliver Day, and we'll keep an eye on it here as well.
Exciting.
Yeah,
there's the last lap here.
Yeah, there's Katarinakis. That was a little bit earlier on. Now is it for Oliver Day? Did he get contact from Uyan? Uyan and Whitehead going side by side. Round goes Day. Torrance there as well. Oh, there's that big power slide from Uyan. Now this is the moment of truth. This is where it happens. Was there a gentle nudge there from Uyan? Oh, it wasn't. I've got a funny feeling it wasn't. Oliver Day looked like he may have just done it on his own. Here comes Uyan now. Does he slide it up? How far back did we go here as well?
It was an exciting time, you know, we got to catch it all.
As we got Dan Kirby has crossed the line to take that victory. Yeah, there's going to be contact. There's going to be contact. I got a funny feeling. No. Oh, good. Okay. As well there as well, and while we were waiting 55 seconds or a lap and a half there, Dan Kirby has come over the line to take the victory. So sorry we missed that. All DMs to producer Paul Glover there once more as Kevin Torrance is finally celebrating. He's actually donuting on purpose this time as well in the background there, so fair play Kevin Torrance for that one. John Uyan did clear Brian Hall as well, as they're coming round now to finish off. That is Whitehead in front, who's going to have a good finish in fourth and get points on the board for Jason, so fair play to him. In the LMGT1s, it looks like Oliver Day did take the victory from Angelides. Borman and Cornwalls in the LMGT2 are your 1-2, and then Maya and Yulitalo in second there as well. Ross, overall though, you know, you got to spend the rest of the evening with me, sat up here in this wonderful box, listen to the voice in our heads, of course, as well. How's it been for you joining us once more?
A treat as always. You know, you guys do a wonderful job. We can't say enough about JPB and everything that you guys bring to this wonderful championship, and it was really exciting at the end. Paul did a wonderful job capturing all the action there as it heated up, just like I thought it might, with the all the different strategies and the different pros and cons of each car, kind of bringing them together right towards the end as expected. As Daniel making some perfect donuts. Yeah, that was really good. But yeah, it's been great. I think if I'm going to have a race ruin, this would be the best way to do it.
Yeah, well, stick around as we will bring up we might have a chat with some of the drivers. We're going to, of course, have a chat with Dan Kirby here as well, as we'll just wait for our official results to come up on the screen for us now. Dan Kirby, it was your winner with Ethan Funk and Magnus Dahlgren. That's your 1, 2, 3. Jason White, John Uyan and Brian Hall are your 4, 5 and 6. Oliver Day takes the victory in the AM LMGT1 AMs there. Alexander Schultz in 8th, with George Angelidis rounding out and taking 2nd place in the AMS. Felipe Enrique, not had a good day for him, down in 10th place at here tonight. Moving on into 11th, we've got Gilles Lalonde, and then Stephen Miller rounds out the podiums for the AMS. Becky Ely just missing out in 13th. Tom Mountjoy, well, I think for Tom, he could safely say this wasn't a good one, but however, he did get to see all parts of the circuit. Ben Borman taking the victory there in the LMGT2s with Dave Coors in 2nd, Katarinakis in 3rd, and then Maya doing what Maya does best and takes the win in the GT2 AMS with PK Yili Tallo in 2nd, with Kevin Torrance, of course, both of them guys having somewhat of a rough race all round. Right, we have got some people to have a chat to, and we'll start off here as well. Should we have a chat to Oliver Day, who took the victory in the LMGT1 AMS? Oliver, welcome into the booth, dear sir. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm always good, mate. I've just watched a great race. Now, I want to have a question. I'm going to go straight in this because it was a mixture of debate up here in the broadcast booth. Now, you went into the pits the first time, sir. You come rushing out of the pits. Stephen Miller in front of you, and I can't remember who else was there. Did you miss your braking point, or did you get unsighted, or what was the situation in that one? Because that could have ended yours and possibly somebody else's race in the process.
Well, I came through on the GT2, and then Steven was sitting on the piece of track braking earlier than I thought he would. So I had to try and take the inside line so I didn't take him out and hope he saw me. So, yeah. Does that answer it?
Yeah, that would do. You know what I mean? Fair play. To be fair, I could have pushed and carried on, but we'll take it as that at the end of the day. Listen, leading earlier on as well, that moment cost you the overall lead. That Ferrari had pace for days here today. That was absolutely incredible. Did you think at one point before, obviously the incident happened, that you were going to take the overall win here? Because you were keeping Dan Kirby behind with that Ferrari.
Well, I think I still, with the Ferrari, have to do one extra stop. So I didn't really think I could, but I was hoping I could get in front of him by the second stop just to scare him and just to open up the possibility, maybe shake him up a little bit.
Well, you definitely did that. You took the victory and he couldn't get near you. He did have to run on you in the corners, but you did rather have the speed on the straight. Going forward for you, though, in general, how has your overall season been as we head into Laguna Seca? Do you think next time out, obviously you didn't have the greatest start, you missed the first 6 rounds. Do we think next season we're going to see a competitive Oliver Day who's going to be here for every race, you reckon?
Yeah, I will. I came in mid-season. I was doing a different series, I guess, under the CMS and whatnot banner, and decided to try it mid-season and really liked it. So, yeah, next season, historics, maybe the mods too. We'll see.
Ooh, okay. And do you have a rough inkling of what era the historics is going into?
I feel like it's the 70s, maybe early 70s, but I'm basing that on nothing.
Yeah, mate, I'm basing it on a grainy picture that got sent from Ross, who's turned around and said I should have deciphered it. I couldn't see anything, to be fair, apart from a load of old style 80s TV lines across the side of the screen there as well. So he didn't really give me much, Oliver, to be honest with you. I think he's just teasing, you know what I mean, here as well. But Oliver, thank you so much for joining us. Well done on your LMGT1 victory. Anyone you want to shout out before I let you go?
Well, just everyone who puts this on each week, you guys, and just folks like Felipe who practices and chats with me.
Well, awesome stuff. Best way there as well. Well, Oliver, thank you so much, and we'll look forward to seeing what you can do at Laguna Seca.
Cheers.
Take care. Now we will have a chat with Mr. Ben Borman here this evening as well. Ben went out and did an absolute stellar job in the LMG22s. He took the victory there as well. He defeated our very own Ross Smith, which wasn't hard. He blew up his engine. But Ben had to keep it on track, and he did that well here as well. Ben, welcome into the booth, sir. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Nice, exciting race.
Yeah, did you enjoy that?
Yeah, it went from trying to go as fast as I possibly could, trying to go as slow as I could without getting overtaken, and it all going wrong, and then having to go as fast as I could. I'm just looking up my telemetry, and I think I ragged the engine to within an inch of its life.
Well, as long as you didn't kill it and you got to the end, at least you know where the limits are now on that one.
He's probably still checking it out.
Yeah, Ben.
It's always a little bit of a guess.
Oh, well, it doesn't matter. The best things that come out of life have always been guesses and chances there, sir. But a stellar job for you overall. Where do you see yourself coming into? Are you going to be looking at doing a lot of next season? Because you did lose a lot of points because you've missed literally the majority of the year. I think this was only your 4th race of the season. Where's Ben going to be next season? Are we going to see Ben more frequent?
Well, I want to be here. It wasn't my choice that I couldn't race. I got my electricity back this week, and so it's been a rush to get everything downloaded and updated and working so that I could race tonight. And yeah, I hope I don't face the same problems next year, and I'm racing all the time.
Well, let's all hope not there as well. Sorry about your electrical issues there, Ben, but thanks so much for joining us. Anyone you want to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Hi to my dad, if he's watching. Probably in 3 weeks' time when he's worked out how to find it on YouTube.
Yeah, I do this for a living, mate, and my dad still can't work out what I do. And I've told him numerous amounts of times. So, you know, you're not on your own with your parents not understanding what they've got to do there as well. Ben, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I look forward to seeing you next week at Laguna Seca. Hopefully will be a good one, celebrating another victory there as well. But Ben, thank you so much. Take care, buddy, and we'll look forward to catching up with you next week.
Cheers.
Cheers. Now, ladies and gentlemen, tip your hats, bow your knees, wave your hands as we have been joined by the LMGT1 Championship winner. He cannot be caught going into Laguna Seca. He decided he didn't want 5 in a row. He was going to get 6 in a row, and he come and do it at Miami after a rough start chasing down Oliver Dan Kirby. Got past, took the victory, and he did it as always in Dan Kirby true fashion. The only word that goes with him alongside him is style. Let's welcome in Dan into the booth. Dan, how are you?
Pretty good after that intro.
That was pretty good, wasn't it? You gotta love that one. I think even Ross loved that. Did you love that, Ross?
That was pretty extravagant for sure.
Well, you know, you got to give the guy props. He's just won the championship, Dan. You know, you've wrapped it up, mate. You can sit at home, put your slippers on next week and sit there and watch it all.
Or try and win it.
Well, you could do that as well, Dan, or give somebody an opportunity to feel what you feel like for the last 6 rounds of racing. Dan, look, yeah, you know, dude, look, there's not enough superlatives to say about what you've achieved this season. You know, you miss 4 races, you come back, you take a win at Ottersleben, 2nd at Le Mans, then it's just win. Absolutely incredible driving from you there as well, mate. What can we say, Dan? Did you enjoy that?
Yeah, that race was really, really fun. I really liked that first stint battle there with Oliver. That was so much fun.
Yeah, he seemed to have a lot of power over you, didn't he? That Ferrari was quite quick here today.
Yeah, that's kind of the one downside with the Porsche is it's really low on top speed, but it's a really good race car on its tires and it has really good pace like during the race.
Yeah, it did there as well. And when you took the overall lead there, Dan, you know, you did what you do best, get your head down and crack on and open up gaps. Was you ever in danger, do you think? Was there any problems? Did you think you were ever going to have an issue going forward after that?
During that first stint with Oliver, yeah, I was planning on doing something different by going longer than him on the pit stop. But then he went like really early. I think he must have just been like pushing his engine like a lot. Um, so after the stops, I came out like 12 seconds ahead, and I thought it was going to be way less than that. So at that point, it was looking a lot better because I knew it seemed like he was going to have to do an extra stop over me. So his strategy was a little interesting.
Well, by what I've said, for what Ross has told me, the Ferrari apparently drinks fuel like it's going out of fashion. So
Yeah.
I think that wasn't forced. I think that was forced. I don't think that was a strategy, because you wouldn't purposely go and take an extra stop if you really didn't need to. For you though, going forward, what is the situation? You're gonna go off now, be champion. You can go and enjoy Laguna. You can, drive around in whatever you want. Have a go. For you next season, are we going to see Dan Kirby again? Is he going to be running in the full championship, and we're going to see him once more next season?
Probably. I'm not too sure. It might be similar to this year. I'll miss a few races here and there, but I just kind of show up, see what I can do, and see what happens.
Well, I'll tell you what, can you give some advice to our very own Paul? He's driving in a league at the moment. He turns up and hopes to finish in the top 10. You turn up and go and smash everybody out the side of the racetrack and finish in first. So, Paul, if you want to reach out to Dan for some advice, go for your life. But Dan, it's been a pleasure talking to you, as it always is, mate. Well done on your 7th victory of the season, 6th in a row. Absolutely incredible. Anyone you want to shout out before I let you go?
Yeah, shout out to Oliver, because that was really fun, that first stint, and we did the same thing on Tuesday too, so that was really fun.
Awesome stuff, Dan. Well, thank you so much for joining me there, bud. And we might see you at Laguna, or enjoy your feet up. One of the two.
Alrighty, thank you guys.
Take care. Well, there you go, Ross. Some happy drivers there as well. It was good to hear, wasn't it? Everybody seemed to have a good time.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I really liked about this track, is that regardless of kind of your own personal struggles or car struggles that you're going through, it always seems to push the cars in such a way that all the different characteristics and strategies bring everybody back together, and then suddenly you're in those fights. We saw it so many times. I mean, you were commenting like, look how everyone's spread out, and then suddenly you just get all the cars in one turn just fighting for position. It's like, oh, here we go. And so yeah, it's great to see that you get waves of calm and excitement all kind of just spread throughout the race.
Yeah, and then you get to listen to the sultry tones of mine and Paul Glover's in your ear, Mr. Smith, when of course you finish your race earlier than expected there as well. Not that we'll carry on about it, but unlucky, Ross.
Yeah, well, we'll get that sorted, and we'll have a good finale next time, where we should have another rookie monster in there. So the team should be stacked. So hopefully we can bring home the team championship and just bag it all for this year. It'll be nice. I'm sure that Matthew and Dave are going to bring some really strong competition there, and I know that up in the GT1 class, it's going to be a pretty strong fight too. Even though there's a lot of stuff settled, I know that everyone's going to say, all right, well, last hurrah, let's make it count.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they will, to be fair. I think it's going to be absolutely amazing. Let's bring Paul back into the booth. Paul, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Cool. Can everyone else hear you?
Yes, they can, James. It's called technology.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I just want to make sure, sir, because I'd hate for them to miss out on your lovely tones that you've been giving us all the way through this as well. Paul, from your perspective, how was it for Homestead Miami? Did you find it a good race?
Yeah, it was a good race. I think, unfortunately, as the race went on, the gaps did open up quite a bit. And I think, to Ross's point, I think some of the drivers need to work on their turn 1 and turn 2 a little bit, and understand how the car suspension is going to work and unsettle it. And because we did see a lot of offs, but some great driving there at the start between Dan Kirby and sorry, I forget the name of the other driver.
Oliver Day.
Yeah. You know, Porsche versus Ferrari. Clearly, you know, the Ferrari's got better straight line speed, but the Porsche in the middle part of the circuit was great, and it showed its pace once the pit stops as I kind of expected to happen. So, but yeah, great, and look forward to Laguna next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, that is going to bring everything to the end. Thanks so much for joining us, Alec and Mr. Reese. As always, don't forget the big final hurrah coming from Laguna Seca next week. Don't forget, the most important thing that's going to be happening next Saturday, you are going to find out what the historic season has done here and where we are going next season. I've been pestering Ross Smith and he's not giving me anything, but he has said next week at Laguna we will find out, so stay tuned for that one. Phil across the pond as always with the Ghost. Wow, just stumbled on this very well presented series with the coolest cars. Thank you so much, and Austin as always. Right guys, that's going to wrap it up here as well. Thank you so much for joining myself. I've been James Buffett alongside Paul Glover and our very talented stand-in Mr. Ross Smith, who has joined us as well. But for now guys, as it always is and it always will be, take care, have a great week, and you never know, we might see you on the track sometime. Good night.